Hello, everybody. I'm really hoping you'll let me mute this. It's not going to let me mute this. So anyway, hi everybody. There it is. Oh, got you. This is Wes, and we have with us the ever handsome, revolting man.
Hey,
We are
man.
going to talk about super important stuff. Sort of. Tell them hi.
Yeah, we're going to tell him how to be so handsome.
Yep. The there are tricks to being this handsome. It's not something that comes naturally to everybody. I mean, y'all can all go check the mirrors and see whether or not you too are as handsome as us. But we've set the bar pretty high.
I'm trying to live up to Wes's standard. I'm not there yet.
It takes work. It's a daily thing. You've got to be humble though. Humility is key to success in handsomeness.
Pride goeth before a fall.
Right. And you don't want to fall on this.
it'd be like wrecking a modern art masterpiece.
Yeah. We really don't have a topic. I actually tried to get Zach in the uh, room with us last night when we were talking about people you don't want in your mag or whatever. But
Oh, let's talk about that.
yeah, we can actually run through that again. Administrative
Yeah, you
stuff,
won't.
real quick, while I have everybody's undivided attention. Um, the I've got to rearrange my channel some. Don't everybody freak out. I'm not going anywhere. I just got to change the way I do things to make room for new, better stuff. That's it. That's all. Okay, calm down. Uh, go to my deal and look at my other channels that I have. If y'all like watching the live chats and stuff, subscribe to Wes S. The Real One on here. It's a YouTube channel. It's got my drum shirt logo on it for the icon. I'm going to be moving one of the podcasts over there. Maybe two of them. I'm going to move one over there for sure, and either both of them over there or one of them over there and one of them to Patreon. So there's your heads up. It's Wes S. The Real One. Okay? That's important. Y'all can spread the word. I'll put it on my community section. I'll put a link to the channel and all that stuff. The reasons being is I am on the phone with a feller from South Texas and a fellow from another country to the north. And I may be going and being completely idiotic and trying to survive in the bushes with very little, if any, resources other than what we can catch, cook, and eat. So, there. That's all the info you got because it's not locked in 100% yet. So, stay tuned. And he's drinking iced tea. If I drank iced sweet tea at this time of night, man, I would be up until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Actually, it's Coca-Cola, so it's even worse than sweet tea.
Oh, that's bad. Hey, listen, I forgot to say hi to everybody up in here. We got who we got in here? D-Day, Gold Star, Chipper, Silver Star, Boski, Bronze Star, Shallow Skies, the Sheriff. Y'all better behave.
I think the revolting woman's with us too. I don't know if she said anything, but
really?
She's listening in the other room.
Listening, and there's the Burley Carpenter, Rob Painley.
Oh, hey, Burley. Hey, we got a. This is interesting. If we talk about people in your mag, Burley is my mag almost entirely. So it'll be fun that he's here. He can give us He can explain to us why he allowed me into his mag.
Oh, cool. And Boski, Mike Gilbert, Mrs. Wes S, Brian Morlock, Team Foco. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Brian.
Sid's dad,
It's down.
Music Will, LS,
Hey,
Guns
Music
Make
Will.
Pew Pew,
Hey, Music
Killdeer.
Will. Can I talk to Music Will for a minute, sir?
Yeah, let me run through the whole list though, so I don't forget
Okay.
somebody. Aaron Dennis, Chris Griffin. I got to say hi to everybody. Harold, I'm not saying that. David, hello. You got to be careful about saying people's names. There's a guy on here. His name's Dean, and his last name is something else. And if you say it together, you say a funny word. He got me like 4 times in the live stream the other day, and it wasn't until it was over with. Dempsey, hello. That my wife explained to me what I was saying. I was like, oh man, Jimmy D. All right, speak.
Hey, Jimmy.
Whoever you want to talk to, go ahead and talk to them there.
Well, I want to talk to all of them now. You said a bunch of interesting people, but I just saw Music Well was a moderator on a live chat for, I believe it was the Texas Boys. And it was an interesting live chat, and I wanted to ask him something about them, but I'll have to try to interact with him later. I believe I got that right. But it was Music Well. I can't really see the comments, so he might be telling me I'm stupid, but I thought I saw him as a moderator on that live stream. And they raised some interesting questions, and I wanted to know a little bit more about their background, but I'll have to
He
try to
said,
get in touch with him.
that's it. Like a giggle. Are you an interesting? Yes, Rob, you're a very interesting person. Working on the same deal with Rob Painless. Any of you people out there who are interested in the fact that me and Rob are thinking about going and jumping out of the truck, out of a perfectly good truck, and going and trying to survive off of rattlesnakes and rats and rabbits for 10 miles. Be aware that me and Rob are talking about doing that just for y'all. Yeah, he says yes, he mods on there and a few others too. Music Well does. So,
well, they're interesting people. I'd like to know more about their background.
I'll have to look up their channel. Maybe one. Hey, Music, get one of them to pop in here so we can. Are you sub to them? Am I sub to you? I don't even know if I sub to you yet. So I don't ever mess with the chat when I'm doing the live streams, hardly at all, because I'm going to make you a moderator, Music. Just remember.
Yeah, he's a moderator for me. He does a good job. I think we've got 3 of our moderators in here. You said Dean. I think that's you didn't say his last name, but I'm assuming it's my guy. And then Jimmy D is one of mine. He's been with us for a long time.
Why don't you go ahead and say if it's your guy, go ahead and say his whole name.
Dean Goldberry?
That guy.
It took me so long to figure it out. I didn't get it either.
Because we trust people, honey.
We see the good in everyone. Anyway,
hey guys,
Dean and D are both some of my guys that I'm.
And Dry Fire Faith just jumped in here. Y'all really ought to go check out some of his videos.
Yeah, he just did one on gun control. Hey, Jimmy D, I don't know if you watched Dry Fire Faith or not, but his last video is one that you would really appreciate. He's talking about the gun control and the bills coming up in Congress, and he's echoing some of the points I've seen you make on some comments lately. So I would check out his newest video if I were you.
Hey, Sasquatch. Hey. Who else? C103. I had to just make everybody blue, I guess. The Revolting Woman. Hey, Mariah. Revolting Woman.
Hey,
no, I can't say that.
Sasquatch, be careful who you address your comments to in this live stream now. Don't you get in Wes and C103 confused.
Yeah, I'm the young, bearded, handsome one. Anyway, I don't even know what to do because I never expected to get the phone calls back on this other thing, so I really don't know what to talk about. That's all keeps running through my head.
Talk about that back thing real quick because that's interesting, and that we should probably talk about the gun control too because that is chilling, not just interesting.
See, I'm way behind on what's going on gun control because, well, I can't ever find any news about it. It's like somebody's in my computer blocking all the good stuff. I don't know why.
Well, Dry Fire's in the chat. He can tell us a little bit. He was talking about these two bills that are going to be brought up in Congress this week. The one, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the first one. I'm sorry, Dry Fire. It was about changing the waiting period for the FBI to get back on your background check for when you buy a firearm. You know, the current rule is that if they don't get back within 3 days, then the sale just goes through. They're talking about changing that to 10 days. And then, like I said, I just forgot what the other one was, and I'm sorry, Dry Fire.
And see, you know what? A lot of people don't even honor that 3-day thing because mine gets hung up because of some waffle over there in y'all's part of the world that has my same name, but and really close to my same birthday, just several, like 14 years before. No, 10 years before. So there's a 1-digit difference, typed digit difference in the birthday. But same name. And it causes me no end to trouble when I try to buy a rifle or pistol or anything.
Any gun regulation at this point is bad. It's gone too far as it is. I've just been reading a book called "For You They Signed." Amazing book. I can't remember who wrote it. I just finished it the other day, and it's these little synopses of all the signers of the Declaration of Independence. And if those boys could meet us, they wouldn't bother to waste a bullet on us. They would use it on themselves because they'd be so depressed and discouraged about what we've let happen to their sacrifice. Because these men, they sacrificed everything. When you read some of these, we hear about Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and John Adams, but most of the rest of the men who signed the Declaration, they lost everything. A couple of them got wounded in battle and were captured and prisoners of war, and the British were horrific. They all lost estates and plantations, and one of them, there was this one guy who was fantastically wealthy. He was supposedly the richest man in America at the time. Basically financed the revolution by himself. Lost everything and ended up after the war, he was in a debtor's prison. Had given a vast fortune away to the nation. Lost it all, was sitting in a debtor's prison. George Washington visited him in prison. I don't know why George Washington didn't pay his debt since Washington was president, but these men just sacrificed everything. And like one of the things that he used to say was that if we let the British get away with the Stamp Act and all that stuff, next thing they'll be taxing our land. I mean, that was the worst that was the next bad step they could think of that they had to stop, was being able to tax the land. And we all think, well, we've got to pay our land taxes. We're good citizens. They would just weep if they saw what has happened in this place. I'm on another online group, and if I'm talking too much, Wes, shut me up because I words flow out of my mouth and I can't stop them.
I'm listening. This is good.
I was on this other online group, and one of these guys was he posted this link to this petition on change.org. There's this kid in Texas. I can't remember. It's savejames.com. www.savejames.com. I believe that's it. Mariah, if you can look that up, put it in the comments. But there's this little boy, a little tiny boy in Texas. He's like 3 or 4, I'm not sure. And his mother petitioned the court to take away all of his father's visitation and start the boy on therapy to begin him to take hormones at 8 to start transitioning into a woman. He's like a 3-year-old boy, and the courts will go in and take him away from his father. Of course, the father probably impregnated a woman he had no business impregnating, but that's neither here nor there. They're going to start this boy, putting him through basically brainwashing to convince him that he's a girl so they can put him on chemicals that will basically castrate him at age 8. He doesn't know if he wants to be an astronaut or a veterinarian, but they're going to let him choose to give up his fertility, lifelong fertility, when he doesn't even understand what that is. And somewhere someone's going to cheer that wicked, vicious, wicked woman for being courageous, for what she's doing to this baby boy. Our founders I'm serious. They wouldn't kill us. They'd kill themselves out of sheer just despair at what we've allowed to happen in this place.
They would literally, I think their heads would explode and they would run screaming into the Potomac and just
what?
die.
I read a newspaper editorial from the time right after the revolution, when they were arguing the Constitution, and this newspaper editorial at the time, it was some big newspaper in Philadelphia, was saying that there was no need for the Second Amendment because every man in America knew that the military arms, I think he said like the weapons of the infantry, he said something like military infantry weapons were the birthright of the American male. This was a major newspaper, its editorial board said that it was so obvious to every American man that he had the birthright was to own the same weapons as the infantry. And these days we talk about common sense and limiting magazines and whatnot. They would strangle themselves. They would strangle us in our cribs if they could, but they would just be apoplectic at what's been allowed to happen. How the First Amendment's been twisted and the Second Amendment's been twisted, and just evilness is unleashed on the land. Starting a 3-year-old boy. Oh my God, I can't believe it. It's even so, Lord Jesus, come, because it can't. How can it get any worse? We know it's going to get worse, but how can we let it get any worse? And now I have to drink some Coca-Cola because I'm all spun up.
There. Okay, you should be able to post it now. You revolting woman, you. I just wanted to say it like that.
Go sign that. Yeah, poor Mariah. I didn't give her a great name, did I? The revolting woman. It doesn't have the same.
You need to get some glasses, that's for sure.
Good line. Well done. Yeah, she's anything but revolting. At least I like her.
So, somebody needs to be hung for a 3-year-old boy getting to not be.
Yeah.
So your little 3-year-old wants to play with dolls and likes girls' clothes. He'll get out of it in about 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah, that is not something you make permanent of the 3-year-old. He doesn't. Yeah, that's insane.
Back when this country was founded, all the 3-year-olds wore the same clothes. They were called. Yeah. They all wore dresses. It's because it didn't matter back then. They weren't whatever. They were just kids.
Yeah.
When you were showing them off, this is my son. But when they were running around the house, chewing on the dirt floor or whatever, they were just a kid.
When they're eating paint chips.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe bringing the lead paint back might be a good idea.
But think about this now. We want to give up our guns, but there's a judge in Texas who might tell this father, you can't see your son anymore. And oh, by the way, he's a girl. And we're going to mutilate him this way. Now, I'm not saying that that it would be expedient for him to rise up at this point and start using his Second Amendment rights. But if he did, could we blame him? Could the people listening to us right now within the sound of my voice, could we blame him if he did that? And what would you do if they came to you? I lived a stupid life before I met Mariah. I have children with 2 different women who I have no control over. If either one of those 2 women did that, what would I do? Would I let my son be? I don't even know what to say. How do you describe it? Do I let my son be mutilated? I don't know the word mutilate. I mean, the Nazis.
It's mutilation. If you take a 3-year-old child or whatever 5-year-old child, and because he's going through a phase, allow him to make a decision that's going to affect him for the rest of his life. I mean, the kid's chances are really good when he grows up and gets into college, he's going to enter what I guess technically, legally, by the law would be a lesbian relationship because he's going to find his roommate attractive.
And he's not going to be able to do anything about it because he will have been castrated chemically by his mother.
Yeah.
I I know this isn't what we're going to talk about. This whole transgender craziness started in Canada, I believe, in the 70s. And the doctor who started it was a German doctor with no background. Now, I haven't done the research on this. I can't promise you that he was, one of the Project Paperclip doctors, but he was a German doctor in the 70s with no discernible background. And these parents in Canada had twin boys, and one of the boys' circumcision got botched, and he lost a significant part of his penis. And so this doctor convinced them to do him right there as an infant, turn him into a girl. And they raised him as a girl up into his teens. He didn't even know he'd ever been a boy. And this doctor thought it was this incredibly wonderful way you could study this, because they were twins. There was two of them, so they had they could study them all the way up, and so they did. All these boys' life, they would go to see this doctor multiple times. I don't know, they frequently. Well, it turns out this whole time he was molesting them, doing terrible, terrible things, making them do terrible things to each other. The boy, the boy who'd been mutilated, when he got to be 18, he decided he wanted to be a man, obviously, but he'd been butchered. They'd done terrible things to his body. He ended up committing suicide, and just a few months later, his brother committed suicide right after him. And that's where all this stuff came from. The doctors who brought it to America trained under this guy, and it was his proteges and acolytes that sort of exploded this thing out in America and took it off. Its roots were so evil, and came from such a horrible, just terrible stuff, and yet we just let it go and go and go and go, and no one wants to say anything about it. And I know why. I mean, no one wants to be rude and angry and mean. You want to be polite, but we got to put our foot down at some point. You just got to say this is ridiculous. If a grown man wants to do stupid things to himself, feel free, but you can't force it on children. That's just evil.
Yeah, I think evil. It should be, if they're going to do it, I mean, if they want to pass a protective law or whatever to protect somebody's rights, it's okay. When you turn 18, do what you want to do. I mean, you should, but you should have to prove that you're old enough to actually know what you want and make the decision. Okay. And I don't.
Here's the deal: you're going to be the lowest. Let's just assume for 1 second. Let's buy into the lunacy and pretend like he's going to be a woman. Yeah. You're going to be the ugliest, most awkward woman known. You're going to be 6'1" and angular and wearing a dress. You're not going to be a princess. There was that one Navy SEAL who recently decided he was a woman and transitioned, and he wrote a book called Warrior Princess. Guy is hideous. He went from being one of the highest status males on the planet. He was a Navy SEAL. I mean, he was the man's man. He went and became the lowest status female on the planet. What was he thinking? If you want to wear a dress, wear a dress, but don't tell me you're a woman. This is bizarre. And it's getting to the point where we shouldn't even be. We're supposed to be talking about mags. We're supposed to be talking about the Billy Carpenter and mags.
I just keep trying to picture how do you get to be more, how do you get to be any uglier and more awkward than that Jenner chick dude?
Yeah. What the hell was that about?
But
anyway,
or the lady that's, or what is it? Not the female rugby player that's busting up all the other females because she used to have other equipment, and she weighs 185.
Yeah,
it goes in at 5'10", 5'11", something like that.
It has the bone density and the muscle mass of a man.
Of a male. Yeah, that's legit. That stuff, I really don't focus on it anymore because I had let myself get to the point where I was ready to explode.
Yeah, that's what I'm at.
And it's biblically speaking, it's to be expected. And the fact that it is here and it is getting as bad as it is, and it's getting more and more acceptable, which actually there aren't that many people that accept it. They're being taught to do not let your children watch the new Robin Hood crap they got coming on.
Really?
Robin Hood hated Christianity and the godly theme because they drafted him and made him go to war. And
Oh God.
The Muslim, he didn't rescue the Muslim, and the Muslim, they, um, the Muslim found him and taught him how to be a warrior and helped him free his people from the warmongers that were teaching him that other cultures were evil. And it is straight up political brainwashing for coexistence, globalist, zero borders. It's,
You know, the crazy thing is that the Muslim wasn't in the original Robin Hood story.
yeah,
The existing Muslim in that story is globalist coexistence, elitist garbage.
they did it with Costner's, and then they just steady making it worse. This will be the third since Costner. This will be the third Robin Hood deal where they made the Muslim out to be the good guy and the Christian faith to be the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And that's just the Robin Hood story. It's all over the place in everything else. That I wish West Wind Survival turned me on to this. It's called the Black Pill or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they're using the big screen and the small screen to brainwash our children.
Yes. Yeah, we watched this kids show on Netflix called it was the Voltron remake. And it was really pretty good and shockingly good. And it had like 2 seasons. There was a lot of shows. The kids really loved it. We were watching it. I watched it. I liked it. So I saw a lot of it. And I had no real objections to it. A few, but nothing serious. At the very end of the season, at the very end of the series, the season finale, it's all over. And they're giving a little recap, showing a picture of all the heroes in the show and showing, telling what happened to him after the show. And it comes to the main guy. His name was Hero. It came to Hero. What? That wasn't Shiro. It was Hero.
It was Shiro.
Well, anyway. Someone's getting ready for Captain Marvel over here. It shows Hero or Shiro, whatever his name was, kissing a dude at his gay wedding. No hint of this through the whole show. At the very last second, they sprung it on you. When your kids had watched all this, you had gotten complacent and you trusted the show. And at the very last second, the main guy is making out with his boyfriend in the last scene of the 2-year-long show. They are going to push it on our children no matter what. They're going to do everything in their power to make sure our kids think. And, the crazy thing is, Hero was the only one of the characters in the whole movie that got married. There was no heterosexual coupling in the thing that worked in anything that we would recognize as a permanent pair bonding.
The way things are going right now, I wonder just exactly how Robinson Crusoe and Friday would be portrayed.
Oh, yeah, that's not even a question.
That's not even a question, huh? And you know exactly what it would be.
Gay lovers now, Mm-hmm. It's stupid. That's why we need our Second Amendment and we need our mags. And now we're back to the topic.
There we go.
Burley, we want to know how in the world he doesn't know he's in my mag. So he may just be shocked himself. How did you ever let yourself get into a mag with the Revolting Man, Burley? We're waiting for your comment. The Burley Carpenter lives about not quite 5 miles away. He's pretty close. He's about 2 roads over from me. In a straight line, he's probably in a straight line he's probably 5 miles. Neat guy. He's a real carpenter. He's a good one. I go over there when I need to borrow tools sometimes. He's building a 14-acre homestead on a kind of neat piece of dirt back off the road. He would actually have some interesting videos. I might try to get him to do some videos with me at some point because neat guy. Oh yeah, he knows he's in my mag because he was in. Burley's been in 2 videos already. He was in. We did a field exercise. He went. He actually provided the location, and then he did another video with us. So he knows he's in the mag. Never mind, Burley.
So, Burley, you drink a little bit then? You weren't thinking this all the way through or what? Maybe he just wanted to put a better looking face on his mag. Think that was all it was?
I don't know. Burley's a pretty good looking man now. He's about 6'3", 6'4". He's probably, well, now I'll be honest. Burley may have a little bit more burly than he's supposed to, but he's about 6'4", about 250. Big full beard. I mean, we're just talking about all the Caitlyn Jenner stuff, so I don't want to be, too weird, but
that's something else. I mean, I don't understand why 3-day unshaven or baby face is handsome or attractive or whatever, but yet a full beard is
full beard, yeah.
Not. I don't.
Yeah, well, they don't want real masculinity. They want fake masculinity, but the real men is, no one wants that because real men enforce the rules and hold the line and make everyone do the hard things. They want nice, soft, metrosexual, feminized men who look masculine but behave worse than women.
Whenever I did the 3-day unshaven thing, it wasn't because I was trying to look, which I did look pretty good, all gruff like that, but it wasn't because I was trying to be all fashionable, or was it? It's because it's too lazy to shave.
Yeah, that's why I started growing a beard. I was too lazy. I hated shaving, and so I started just growing a beard. And for
there's
a while,
a
I worked with
big bot fly in here. I gotta kill it as soon as I get a chance. I don't want it landing on me.
You're gonna kill it with your back scratcher?
Yep.
And then you're gonna scratch your back.
I'm gonna scratch my back and then I'm gonna kill it. I can't find a fly swatter. Somebody made fun of me about it being behind my wall hanging, so I took it down and now I don't know what to do with it. But it's definitely time to start fishing because these guys are coming back out.
Yeah, we've had weird weather up over here too for some silly reason. I'm all about this solar or grand solar minimum. So I was expecting a really hard cold winter, and all we got is a wet winter. And it was probably in the upper 70s a few days ago.
And if you research the Ice Age as much as I did back in the day, you find out that the years immediately previous to the Ice Age, you wind up with stupid warm weather where it doesn't belong. So everything gets warmer and then boom, it's like it throws a switch and then it gets cold.
Well, supposedly we're coming back down to one of those cycles again where it's going to be relatively cold. And they did just get snow in Los Angeles, so maybe it's just been warm here. But they got a couple inches of snow in Los Angeles, which apparently is pretty rare.
Yeah, that's pretty rare. Well, the snow they got in the Nevada desert, man, it's like crazy snow over there right now.
Well, I think the real tell will be this to see how much the snowpack melts. And if the snowpack doesn't melt that much, then we'll know something's up.
Yeah.
Or if it's
I don't think the Ice Age will, if we get the Ice Age, which gosh, I hope I didn't bet on the wrong horse, but if we get the ice age, we won't get it until that current switches. When that North Atlantic current changes its course and drops down the 15 or 1600 miles, then it's home. It is going to rain all the flipping time and on the southern hemisphere, and it's going to snow in Canada, and I'm hoping that the inland lakes and stuff come back to this area. That's what I'm gambling on. I'm hoping. We'll see.
Yeah, you're in the exact right spot if it ends out to be true.
If it's a ice age, good growing weather here. If it's not, oops. So we'll see. We'll see if I am in the right spot for the Yellowstone caldera.
Ooh, yeah, that thing. You know what? I've never put much stock in that, but supposedly there's a lot of magma building up underneath there. And that's mainstream media talking. That's not just crazy right wingers.
But I'm in the right place for the New Madrid. I'm in the right place.
You're in the bad spot for the Yellowstone thing, aren't you?
No, maximum if it goes all the way, worst possible scenario, all we get is a half an inch of ash is all we'll get, and that's spread out over 2 months or something like that. So basically, if I've got a year's worth of food and a tiller, I'm set. So.
Yeah, if you got all that ash all at once, that'd be great things for your soil. Volcanic ash is supposed to be great for
the places that are like Rob is too close. He'll get almost an inch, and like Colorado and New Mexico and stuff. And the thing is, if it went, it would set off that fault line over there at on the eastern seaboard, no, western seaboard, and there would be there's I think, I don't want to get the numbers wrong, but 300 miles inland of saltwater flooding. There's evidence of the last time it went of it that left saltwater flooding as far as 300 miles inland on the northern Pacific coast of the Americas. There was
sometimes
it wasn't good.
Sometimes you got to filter some of this stuff though, because these are old Earth evolutionists who say things have been around for 2 trillion years or whatever silly number they come up with.
Yeah, so whatever.
A believer might look at that and say, "Oh, saltwater in 300 miles inland, Noah's flood." Whereas the crazy, old Earth evolutionists would say something crazy, stupid, like one of the things they say is there's this big rock, this giant rock underneath the 2/3 of the nation of country, the United States. And one of the things they say is that it shot all the way up in the air, flipped over, and landed, which is impossible. It's so big. I think that would be the outer edge in space. But there's no other way for this thing to have formed except like that. The bottom had to be exposed to air when it formed under their theory. So the theory is that and it's one giant plate of rock. So the theory is it jumped thousands of miles up in the air so it could flip over and slap back down on the ground. So they just come up with crazy, stupid explanations for stuff because, obviously their whole worldview is false and they don't have any real explanations. So they have to make up stupidity. Like this global warming thing I just read the other day. Oh my God, ice is melting that hasn't melted in 40,000 years, and it's exposing, or it was 12,000 years, in 12,000 years, and it's exposing the old civilizations that used to be there. And then they go and you read the rest of the article, and it talks about how at that time it was a warm, fertile, verdant plain, but now it's underneath the tundra. But
Yeah.
it's global warming is exposing it, so we have to be worried. Even though it was this warm at some point in the past when there weren't cars or fossil fuels being burned, and they say it with a straight face, and they don't even blink, or even blush. No, this is global warming, even though it's been, we freely admit that it's been this way before, and we show that as evidence that it's never happened in history. It's ridiculous,
Yeah, I believe in global warming. I don't believe in man-made global warming. I believe in a natural cycle. I mean, there's too much evidence. Okay, it's like flipping hot in Texas now anymore. I mean, it's stupid the weather has been. Uh, I remember what the weather was like before I turned 25, and I know what the weather's been like since 25. Okay, I've watched it change. Okay, so I'm okay with global climate change. At least in my part of the world, it's getting hard. Just because you have a day that gets down to 18 degrees and the wind's blowing does not mean that global climate change or global warming is bogus. Doesn't mean that, okay, no cows farted that day either. Cattle are carbon neutral. Okay, they eat grass, they poop fertilizer. Trees, carbon neutral. You cut them down, you burn them. Trees breathe in the carbon dioxide and turn it back into more trees. Just the way it is. I'm not sure. There's no real reason for us to use as much fossil fuels as we have. That is all big business. The fossil fuels drives a really large economy. I mean, Texas would shut down if it weren't for fossil fuels. Okay, simple as that. We would have no money. That's a bad thing for the rest of the world because, well, we need to sell the fuel. You have to burn, or to get the fuel, you have to burn the fuel. I don't know, probably half of the oil we make in Texas goes right back in the gas tanks of the trucks and stuff that pull it out of the ground. So it's
you know what? The Permian, I just read this on Zero Hedge. The Permian Basin by itself in Texas is producing more oil than United Arab Emirates, Brazil, and somebody else. I can't remember. There's a lot of oil coming out of Texas right now. I mean, a lot. More out of that one field in the Permian Basin than come out of several countries. Several countries known for oil production.
But that's all them guys over there would have to do, though, is turn the tap back on high, and they can kill the market.
Yeah.
And
I don't know why the Saudis don't do it, because the Saudis can sell oil at like $10 a barrel and still not be losing money. And the shale producers out there in Texas, they need $40 to $50 a barrel. The Saudis could turn the spigot on and bury American production.
The oil drops below $45 a barrel, and it shuts things down here. There's no money to be made in it. I mean, at $45, they break even, so nobody's going to invest. If you've got the hole in the ground, you run with it. You literally drop to $45 a barrel. They pick up the phone. They say, "I'm canceling this. I'm canceling that." I mean, these guys have got jobs planned 6, 8, 10 months in the future. Okay, you say you're going to drill a well on spot X. You have to set up that drilling for spot X 6, 7 months ahead of time. It's not, there's not a drilling rig just laying around somewhere ready to go jump on that hole. There's a finite number of drilling rigs in the state of Texas or in the country as a whole. I used to build drilling rigs. Two of the ones I built didn't even stay in country. They went south. they're well, one of them wound up in Venezuela. So didn't get that one back.
I'm about to say that one's probably available. We could probably go get that one. They're not
Probably.
doing much. I read another interesting article recently about the price of oil, and that's I don't know why they're shocked. You know, oil demand in Europe is soft. They call it weak, and it's freaking everyone out, and they're having to revise their their predictions for the price of oil back down because Europe isn't buying as much as they expected, and China isn't as buying as much as they expected because all these producing countries have population declines, and so there's just not the demand. So there's a real good chance that the price of oil, the price of everything, actually is going to be low for a long time.
And if we wanted to lower, if we wanted to put big oil and stuff out of business, all we'd have to do, we just, hey, that Escalade you just bought, why'd you buy that? You're one person. You've got a wife. Why do you have a 7-passenger vehicle? I'm just asking, okay? Yeah, that's a really cool diesel you got there. You know, it's 8 miles to the gallon. It's got really big tailpipes and stuff. You don't even have a girlfriend, dude. And with a truck like that, you're not going to get one, okay? She knows about compensation.
Actually, around here, it's the exact opposite. The bigger the truck, you're going to get a girlfriend.
Well, yeah, well, women have low standards, I guess. But
yes, I
that's just me personally. I've never understood somebody wanting to, for running back and forth to the grocery store, putting diesel in a truck that gets 8 miles to the gallon because once a month they have to drag a stock trailer. I understand you need to drag that stock trailer, buddy, but why aren't you driving a Yugo on a daily basis?
You know what drives me nuts is I'll go down to, some of my kids live down in Gwinnett, which is just north of Atlanta. It's a real upper end suburban area. And I'll go down there and I'll see guys in, dress pants and loafers waddle down out of an F-250 extended cab, super, diesel, that's $80,000 that they drive back and forth from work, from their little McMansion there in the suburbs to their accountant job or whatever. Nothing wrong with accountants, but they've driven the price of work trucks up to $80,000, and the men who need work for work can't afford them anymore because the yuppies are all buying them as status symbols, and that drives me crazy.
Did you know to buy a vanilla work truck? This is what pisses me off. Okay, you don't hit a nerve. If I go to the Ford house and buy a real truck, if I go to the Ford house, not a Chevrolet, if I go buy a real truck at the Ford house, and I say I don't want none of that crap on it. I don't want no GPS. I don't want no power windows. I want a truck with a steering wheel, some good brakes, some comfortable seats, hauling capacity and stuff. Keep all that other junk. If I buy a vanilla truck, it's 20 grand more than one that's decked out.
Yep.
What?
They got to order it special.
Hell is that?
Yeah. You got to go to like a fleet.
You can buy a 4-door Lincoln pickup truck cheaper than you can buy a plain Jane F-150.
Just today on YouTube, I saw a Mercedes SUV advertised for $48,000. And I know I have seen F-150s for more than that. No, it was 40,000 or 42 or something. No, maybe it was 48. I don't remember. It was less than $50,000. And I have, for a fact, seen a brand new F-150 up at the dealership for over $50,000. That is insane.
Dude.
The world is upside down.
I looked at the other day because it's pretty. It was $68,000.
Wow.
And it's a half-ton truck. Okay. I can get a flipping Raptor for that, man.
Yeah.
Not that I would want one. Actually, I sort of do, but
our house here on 2.4 acres with I think the house is a 2007. and that sort of tells you your socioeconomic status there when your house has a model year. But we got the whole place for $30,000, and Mariah and I'll be able to die here, and it'll be a perfectly fine house. Or I could go down to the Ford dealership and buy an F-150 for twice that. That is stupid.
Yeah. Well, if I went and bought the truck I want is a Toyota. It's a Tacoma, and believe it or not, it's only it's a 17. It's a 2017 model. I haven't seen the 19s yet. I might change my mind. But for me to buy that truck, now I can get a Tacoma for 27. Okay. Well, actually 25. And this is what I don't get. You can buy a vanilla Toyota pickup for $25,000. Or you can buy a not vanilla Toyota for $43,000. Explain to me the economics. If Toyota still knows how it works, then why doesn't everybody else knows how it works? The one I want is $43,000 because it's pretty. I got pictures of it on my Facebook and stuff in case y'all interested. In case anybody just wants to go down and buy me one, I want it in that color. I want the desert tan. I want the red pinstripe in, the whole 9 yards. Okay, I want the expanded metal grill.
That's for his Patreon patrons. You Patreon people, y'all go buy Wes a.
Yeah, y'all go buy me a truck. Oh, yeah. But anyway, you can't get anything else on this Tacoma, okay? And it's still cheaper than a base model F-150, and it hauls it's actually got a bigger bed on it than the Ford F-150.
What's blowing my mind these days is my brother just went and bought a stripped down, I think it was a Toyota Tercel type thing, or Civic, or not Civic, a Toyota, whatever Toyota's 4-door sedan thing is. And he didn't pay that much money for it, but financed it for 7 years or 6 years. I think he's financed for 6 years. Yeah, 6 years. A 6-year loan on a car is just mind-blowing to me. And people are doing 7 years too. 7-year loans on cars. Can you imagine still paying a $400 or $500 a month on a car, a 7-year-old car, knowing that you hate that thing and the transmission's about to go?
Yeah,
that would be hard for me to take.
I don't understand why people are willing to pay more for their vehicle than they paid for their house,
or don't own a house, or they're renting. They don't own a house, and they're paying enough for a house. They're paying a house payment on a car. That is obscene.
A friend of mine he's paying. He's renting a house, renting his furniture, and went out and bought a brand new GMC. I'm like, you're gonna die with nothing, dude.
Yeah, check this. In another lifetime, I was an account manager for a rent-to-own store, which basically means I was a repo man for laptops and furniture.
Pretty much.
And I saw the most insane things. I saw a woman rent a TV one time that literally would not fit in her apartment. It was an 82-inch projection, and we could not fit it in her apartment.
Yeah, I will never understand. For those of you who are doing it, I apologize. I don't understand the rent-to-own furniture thing. We have 2 rent-to-own furniture places in our town, or in our town that is close to us. And I can go there and I can buy a stove for $600 and put it on a payment plan and wind up paying $1,200 or $1,800 for it by the time I've got it paid off. Or I can go to a furniture sales place that sells them, and they will put me on a 6-month payout plan, same as cash. Okay, the payments are a little more for the 6 months, but at the end of 6 months, I only paid $600 for the stove, as opposed to paying over 2 years or whatever and wind up paying $1,200, $1,500, $1,800, depending on which place I go with, for a stove that, and you know what? They don't care if you go in and pay it off early. That's how we did our refrigerator. It's just nuts.
I will say one thing for rent to own. If you're gonna finance your appliances, it's better to do rent to own. And I say this, advising the rent to own industry and having worked in it for 5 years. But the thing with rent to own is that if it breaks while you're renting it, they fix it.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, that's something I've never understand. People, you know, I've done apartment maintenance, okay, and people will be like, "Oh, my stove doesn't work," and you know, I go over there, I'm like, "Okay," and it unplug 2 wires, plug 2 wires in, plug the burner back in. You know, 50 years ago, the guy would have done that himself. I mean, people literally don't have a clue. They don't know that it's just you just change the part that burned out. You don't buy a new stove. We used to do that. I worked at an appliance place, and the people would be like, "Oh, my stove quit. I just want a new one." Okay, we'd sell them a new stove. We would literally ask them what they wanted to do with the old stove. They'd put, "Well, I don't have any use for it." We would take their old stove out of their house, hose it down with Easy Off oven cleaner, hit it with a water hose, open it up, and put the $3 or $4 or $5 part on it, and set it back out front for $150, and it'd be gone in 2 hours.
Yep.
And
I love it when people put washers out on the road, because you know what happened is a sock got caught in the pump, and you can spend 30 minutes to unstick it, and you can work in washer.
The old washers, people don't. There's actually a part on there called a wig-wag, and everybody thinks, "Oh, the transmission's going out. I need a new washer." And you go down, a wig-wag costs $8, and it's literally 2 bolts, 2 keeper pins, and one little what do you call the wire connectors? You unplug it and you plug it in. There's, you know, my grandkid could fix one, and it's not the transmission; it was the wig-wag. It was $8. Or the pump, like saying the pumps are external, dude. I mean, you take it apart. Most of them, you can pull the bottom off of it and replace the guts on the pump and put it back together and go on with it. People are just, they're clueless. We live in a clueless society, and they're actually.
And anymore, you can log on to YouTube and have someone give you a step-by-step tutorial on how to do it, you know?
Oh, what was the original topic for the chat? The original topic for the chat was 2 handsome men with beards talking about stuff. Actually, we're supposed to be talking about mags and such, and the Second Amendment, and we got off on trucks and washing machines, and yeah, we need to redirect this. Let me pose a question to you, Zach.
Okay, sir.
You had to pick the one thing that would trigger you into a violent response over the Second Amendment, what would that be?
Dun dun dun. The $64,000 question.
64,000. Yeah. This is purely hypothetical to anybody who's works for anybody that doesn't need to hear this in the chat.
So there's 2 parts to this question. I've actually got a video on this. And this is where's the line in the sand? And I say we've crossed the line in the sand a long time ago. But the decision on when to start slinging lead is a tactical one. You don't make tactical decisions based off of lines in the sand. When is it, uh, for the lack of a better word, effective to start slinging lead? Suicide may not be a sin, but it's still not a good idea. Uh, so the point of resistance has been breached. It was breached a long time ago. We are past the point where we can resist the government with a clear conscience. The question is, what are the effective ways to do that? You know, attacking the FBI headquarters in Langley, Virginia, one at a time is not the way to do that. Unfortunately, where we're at right now is, and I hate this because it sounds like a liberal talking, but we have to organize, and we have to educate, and we have to encourage and remind men of who they are and what they are, and what their legacy that was bequeathed to them. Because as far as, when could we have, with a clear conscience, started shooting? Take your pick. It could have been it probably should have been in 1916. We should have started shooting in 1916 when Woodrow Wilson federalized the National Guard and turned them into the reserves and all that. So, the time has passed for us to stand up now, but we've got to get men to stand up with us. Me going off like a Roman candle in Northeast Georgia isn't going to be effective.
That's the thing. How do you? We got to figure it out. I'm not asking you personally how do you, but that's the real question. How do you organize? How do you get back to a deal where people communicate and they stand on the same page, they stand on the same principles, so they're willing to, when you're watching the news and you see that in over in Atlanta, they're going door to door confiscating weapons from people. It's the cell phone should blow up, and the city of Atlanta should be surrounded by people from Texas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Pennsylvania. It should just come from everywhere, and it should be like, no, you aren't going to do that. How do you get to that point?
This guy who got killed in Maryland, I don't know if you paid attention to that, but there was this guy in Maryland whose niece didn't like his politics. He was, a right winger, MAGA type, and she was some silly millennial Bernie supporter or whatever. So Maryland has this red flag law, and simply out of spite, for no other reason than spite, his niece turned them in under the red flag law. So the cops went to get his guns, and he resisted, as was morally right for him to do. But of course, he died.
Yeah.
He died in that resistance, and you know what? He died a hero. He died a brave man who stood up to the tyranny and resisted the oppressors. And that sounds kind of silly to say, but it's the truth. He was killed for it, though. We've got to realize that for a while we have to do things under protest. We don't have to consent to laws if we try to avoid the penalties for them. I have a concealed carry permit. I am completely against concealed carry permits. I think they're unconstitutional, and they're actually unchristian. Jesus told us to have weapons and carry weapons. For the government to tell us that we could or couldn't literally goes against our faith. However, I have one of those concealed carry permits, and I have it under protest. And a purist might tell me, "Well, you're compromising." I'm not violating a definite article of my faith. Jesus didn't say carry weapons without license. He just told us to carry weapons. So I can do something under protest. If that man had surrendered his weapons under protest and fought it through the courts and had his little YouTube channel and talk, he could have done it under protest and not died. Now, I'm not saying he should have done that. I'm not saying he was stupid for resisting. I believe he was courageous. I admire his courage and honor his sacrifice. But if that happens to all of us one at a time, then they just win one at a time, and you've accomplished nothing. So you're right.
It's that's something I don't understand. Like when they were tried to do the steal all the man's cattle or whatever, and everybody showed up over there and said, "No, y'all aren't going to do that." The Land Management Bureau or whatever. There should be people. I mean, protesting the crap out of that place.
And
there's got to be 2,000 or 3,000 people that can walk around carrying signs or whatever, that in the whole country, in YouTube world or whatever, wherever, there's got to be a few thousand people, which is enough to draw media attention that say, no, this is unconstitutional. This is not cool. This is why these kind of laws can't. The way it's written is just a bad way. They don't have to prove there's a problem. They just have to suspect.
Yeah. I used to, and I'm ashamed of myself that I don't anymore, but I used to go down to the Walk for Life every year in Atlanta on January, I believe it's 20th. And it was huge. I remember one year I was there and there were like 12,000 of us or 20,000. It was some stupid number of people protesting abortion. And there weren't more than 25 counter protesters off to the side. And when you saw it on the news that night, they said a few thousand of us showed up, and then they shot the protesters in such a way that it looked like the counter protesters, that it looked like there was just hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And they managed to take those couple dozen people and turn them into the real story. And they ignored the 12 to 20,000 of us. And I can't remember exactly how many were that year. And they managed to make us look like just a couple of rabble rousers,
They do the same thing at these Antifa rallies. I mean, you got 700 people showing up for Second Amendment rights or build a wall or whatever, and then you've got 10 or 15 people in black jackets and masks show up, stirring up a stink, and all of a sudden they're counter protesters or blah blah blah.
Yeah. And suddenly the counter protesters are made to be the story. Speaking of travesties of justice, while we're here on Antifa and counter protesters, remember that young man who supposedly drove a car into a crowd of the Antifa types in Charlottesville?
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, they're trying him for murder. And they got him for something. They've got him in jail for a very long time. And all the evidence, I won't go into all the details, but it's 99% sure that this guy just took a wrong turn and wasn't able to get stopped in time before he hit these people by accident. And he's going to jail for a long, long time, simply for a political cause.
Yeah, just to prove.
Just because they can't let him out of jail because, they morons would protest again. Hairless men and hairy women.
I don't understand why it's like that either. I mean, do they honestly think that what they're pushing for politically, socially, and economically is feasible? Do they actually think that could ever work?
I have no idea. Because, I mean, you just look at it. Who's going to pay for this thing? But, this silly little girl up in Congress now, this Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she'll say stuff, and if anyone asks her how to pay for it, she'll say, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter. It pays for itself." Well, what? Nothing pays for itself. I am 43 years old. I have moved through my life. Nothing has paid for itself yet. Not one thing has come to me and said, "Zach, I'm buying myself for you." No, it doesn't work. Yeah. Somebody has to pay for it.
It's now like when I buy a power tool, I have to, my financial advisor requires that I justify the purchase of this.
That would be Mrs. Wes, right?
And yes, I have to say this thing will pay for itself in blah, blah, blah on this job or the next job or whenever this powered, this new nailer will pay for itself. Okay. Now, for that nailer, this nailer that I just bought, to pay for itself, guess what it had to do? It had to drive some nails. So it didn't just sit there and, suck up $189. It actually had to drive in $189 worth of nails to pay for itself. It had to work. It, the only way something pays for itself is if it's doing the work that it is supposed to do. Now, if a new welfare program or a new homeless program or something is going to pay for itself, if it's just going to magically pay for itself, then it has to be doing some kind of constructive or productive work. And socialist or programs do not do productive or constructive work. They don't.
Can you believe that this ridiculous little snit of a girl was a bartender with an $80,000 college degree? This is how smart she is. She went and got $80,000 worth of college debt, or $100,000. She went to Boston University. However much Boston University charges for a degree. And she took that wise investment of her money and went and was bartending in New York City. And she goes from that to being a congresswoman of the United States of America.
So
how?
We have a bar back as a congressperson in New York now?
Yeah. Just ridiculous that we're this stupid. That, forget the Muslim woman coming out of Michigan or whatever it is. Okay. At least she presents herself fairly well. We got this stupid horse-faced bartender who is almost running the agenda for the Democratic Party right now. And no one's calling bullshit. No one's raising the flag up the pole saying, wait a minute. No one ordered a White Russian.
Yeah.
You give drinks out for free in your bar? I'm sure you got really mad when people didn't tip you at your bar. And here you are in Congress telling us that we have to give everybody all this free stuff. It is beyond bizarre that we are so cowed in this country that no one's just calling bullshit on this little miss thing.
Help support the living wage thing.
Just out of
was to automatically pay people $50,000?
58 or something.
$58,000.
She's starting her people off that to encourage the living wage.
That's never going to work. They started talking about doing that living wage in a town that shall remain nameless because, anyway. And companies started pulling out. They almost killed the town overnight. They said, okay, we changed our mind about that whole living wage thing. And the companies took the padlocks off the doors.
Think about it. It would drive wages through the roof.
Yep.
Because anyone go to work.
I'm going to tell you what I used to do for a living in the oil field, if I find out they're making what I was making in the oil field at McDonald's, then I want you to double my wages. Yes. Or I'm going to work at McDonald's and doing my little bit of whatever and then going and getting my check because I'm only working part-time.
I hate this about myself, but if someone came and gave me a living wage and told me to do it, I wouldn't leave this house. Yeah. I would play my little homestead. I would make my little videos. I would raise my children, and I wouldn't leave this house, except maybe to go to Walmart and spend my living wage.
Yeah, there's if you don't have, we're human, okay? If you don't have to work, you're going to go fishing.
We need struggle. We need conflict, to give us a reason, it's the spice of life or whatever.
I've brought this up before, but they did a lot of research with rats, and as for comparison to human behavior, and they took the last one I talked about. They did the rats and they put them in this deal, and there were too many rats. They had plenty of stuff or whatever. But anyway, they were still killing each other over stuff, even though they had plenty of it. But the other one, it was a perfect world. Okay. There was a adequate space for everybody. There was always food. There was no need to compete for space or food, or it was like a utopia. The rats all got fat and stopped reproducing, and the colony slowly died off.
Huh. That's interesting. I wonder why they quit reproducing.
Can't. They didn't have any reason. They didn't. I mean, they didn't have to fight for anything. You know.
I get it. I'm shocked that they
It's
quit reproducing.
weird that it worked that way. Yeah. But utopias don't work. It literally, if you don't have to work for anything, you die.
On a kind of a similar note, Mariah, we just had a roast go bad in the fridge. We just didn't cook it in time. And it's this big hunk of meat. And we had to throw it outside to the cats. And for some reason, the dog wasn't around. So there were 5 cats around this giant hunk of meat, all hissing at each other. None of them were going to eat the meat. None of them could get to eat it because they were all worried about the other 4 cats around them. And they were just all in this Mexican standoff around a piece of meat that the 5 of them couldn't eat in a week. Well, easily in a couple of days, though. I mean, it was a huge piece of meat.
And they were just just fighting over who was going to get it, and they just let the flies eat it all. That's the other side of it. I mean, I don't know. We're doomed for failure, and they said, we're not. I don't really want to go into religion on this, but I mean, there's only one place it's going to work. There's only one way it's going to work. There's only one way we win at this, and it's not. We don't get to do it while we're still breathing. So
nobody gets out alive.
Nobody, and
it's a really good book, and I haven't actually read the book, so it's a little silly that I'm quoting it. But it's my mom's favorite book, and I think Mariah read it too. I don't remember if she finished it or not, but it's called Anna Karenina, and I think it's Tolstoy. And so I'm going to quote Tolstoy on Wes S's channel. This may be a first, people, but I think it's the start of the book, and I'm not going to quote this exactly, but it says something like, only unhappy families are interesting because happy families are all alike because there's only one way to be happy, but there's infinite number of ways to be unhappy. And there's only one way to do this stuff right. None of us are doing it, but some of us are trying. But there's so many different ways you can screw it up, and we've about discovered all of them by this point. Or maybe not. I'm sure there's more, but it sure seems like we've discovered all the wrong ways to do it.
It's almost like they have research teams out there trying to develop new ways to screw up.
Yes, it does seem exactly like that. And they seem to be doing a good job at their research too.
Yeah.
As typified by this 3-year-old boy in Texas whose mother's trying to cut off his penis because she wants to erase his father from her memory.
It's crazy. Wonder if she wants to go to the range.
We have to remind men who they are and what they're called to do and what their responsibilities and privileges are. This is one of the things that pisses me off. I'm sorry, I got off on one of my rants. This is one of my hobby horses. Everyone wants to be hard on men and tell them this is what you have to do. You're being a bad man. You're supposed to do this. You have to have a job, and you do. And you have to provide for your wife and children, and you do. And you have to be nice, and you have to be well behaved, and you have to be gentle, and you have to be a servant. But you have to be strong when they need you to be strong. And and we never stop and tell men the good side of all this. It's hard. There's the hard stuff, and we have to meet that stuff. The one who always makes me so mad, who's so just stupid. focus on the family. I hate them because they do this. They'll get all sanctimonious and fold their hands and, say they're all about trying to save families. And then they'll spend all day, every day, just beating men down, beating men down, beating men down. I despise focus on the family. Anyway, I'm sorry. But we do this to men, and other men do it, and other men love to do it. Other men like to beat the shit out of each other because it makes them feel like better men. I saw this. Oh, it happened in my life a lot with my first divorce. All these men who were supposedly my friends, suddenly there was blood in the water, and they just attacked like sharks because they were gonna be the white knights, and I was the evil oppressor, and all this stupid shit.
Bad connection.
And that's why these young men, these millennial men, they don't want to get married. They don't want all this responsibility and obligation for no return on their investment, because what's a wife and children to a young man? Well, it's a burden, and there's no upside anymore. You're not this honored person in your home. You don't get treated with respect. You're on the hook for all the bills, and if this woman wants to run off, she runs off and takes your children, and you still got to give her money. And young men are never going to want to turn around while we tell them they have to be slaves to the system and slaves to women. But we've got to tell them, yes, you have responsibilities, but man, there's this wonderful side of being a man. You're a king. You're a king in your own castle. Don't let anyone tell you any different. Don't let the government tell you don't let focus on the family tell you you got to be a servant leader. You got to love them with the love of Christ. I hate that. I want to just punch those people in the face. They are the most destructive people in this country, because good men trust them and listen to them and do what they say when they are just teaching a lie, just wrapped in the thinnest little slice of veneer that maybe isn't as putrid disgustingness on the inside. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not even being coherent at the moment, but I despise those people. You run down men. You do everything the feminists want, but you act like you're this perfect little Christian ministry who's trying to save the family. I hate them. Yes, despise them.
He really does. I was just from the chat over here. They were wondering if you could tell us how you really feel.
Tell them I could, but that your channel's a little more family oriented than mine.
Yeah. He's holding back for the sake of my tender-eared and hearted viewers. I used to watch Focus on the Family and listen in on them and stuff, and I picked up on the same thing. I was like, okay, so I'm supposed to be the head of my household, is what the Bible's telling me. I'm supposed to, be the guy, and these are the rules. This is what's right. This is what's wrong. This is the way it's got to be. But I'm supposed to do it while being sensitive to everybody else's needs and, holding everybody else on an equal and whatever scale to myself. I'm not, I can't be. How are you supposed to be the head of somebody if everybody that you're supposed to be the head of is on the same page?
God forbid you take a stand and say no. Your job is to be encouraging to everyone and help them fulfill their potential and make sure they're happy. And that's bullshit. Yeah. That is the worst lie. The worst lie. Sometimes you got to draw a hard line and say, absolutely not. You're crazy.
And yes, see, I want my wife to be happy because I'm not a dumbass. Okay.
Yeah. Dude, I love for my wife to be happy. When she smiles, my whole world lights up.
If what she wants me to do is going to make things really, really hard and is outside of what, God has given me for the vision of my family, then if I just say, well, I want her to be happy and I've got to be a servant husband, then I've done wrong because I've allowed the moment of happiness to overrun our end game. Our end game is to be followers of Yahweh. Yeah. And you can't
and
always say okay when You know,
At the end of the day, a woman won't respect a man who acts like that. That's why all these stinking MGTOW guys run around whining. I treat her like an equal, and I'm kind to her, and she just doesn't like me. She wants to go for the bad boy. Well, yeah, women don't respect men who kowtow to them. They don't. They're designed, even hardwired, even though they don't know it and can't admit it. Her desire is for her husband. She wants a strong man that will headship over her. And when she doesn't get it, she's not content. She's not happy. When you make her the mission, she was designed by God to help you achieve your mission. And when you make her the mission, she consents. It's wrong. It's not right. This isn't how it's supposed to be. And she's discontent and unhappy without.
She doesn't even realize that subconsciously she's aware that the way you're doing things is the problem, but because the way society is telling her it's supposed to be, she can't acknowledge it, and she can't say, hey, he's supposed to be the man. There's nothing wrong with there being two different, and it's not a different set of rules, it's different jobs. Okay, and its society is all messed up. I don't think anybody should be able to put a hand on a woman, because you shouldn't have to, because the woman should be, and you can't okay, woman, this is what I'll say. You can't always walk around and be like that. Take your wife, beat her back off. That's not godly either, because if you're actually following the word of God and you're teaching your wife that this is the word of God, and you're really on the same page as y'all, then it's going to come together, unless one of you isn't wearing the same yoke. If you both, if you make the desires of the Lord your own, and your spouse makes the desires of the Lord their own, then the Lord will give both you and your spouse the desires of your heart, because they're his, and you will all have the same desires, so it all works together. If one of the spouses does not have the same desires as the other, that's when the problems come in. And if both spouses are on an equal deal, and neither one of them gets to have the final word about, this is actually what we're doing, this is actually what it says, this is what God is telling us, then it can't work, because the 50-50 thing is, all of a sudden, if she interprets it a little different, and we're warned about this, Paul warned us about this, because women are mothers. Women will choose what is more comfortable, safer, and better for their children than what is right. If it's a little wrong, they're still going to do it for their kids. It's when Paul's talking about if you can stay unmarried or whatever, and he goes into explaining why. But I did not want to go biblical, especially not on the husband and wife thing, because I like all my female subscribers just quit me.
This is one of our big things here. I personally really feel like where America started going off track, and here the rest of your female viewers are going to leave. And let me apologize to Mrs. Wes S. before I go here already. We got off track with the whole woman question. And when in America we said, oh, divorce is fine, no fault divorce, don't worry about it. That's when God took his hand off. He said, whoops, no, you're wrong, because I hate divorce. And marriage represents something, and idolatry and adultery are the same sin. Idolatry is just adultery to God, and adultery is just idolatry against your husband. And that's when God said, you're done. When we accepted no fault divorce and stopped applying God's rules about sex and marriage, That's when all the homosexuality stuff started coming down the pike. All that stuff flows straight from where we got off the biblical model for men and women, and it's a very harsh standard, a very hard standard. When you read what the Bible says about men and women, it is grating. It is grating, especially to women. Mariah talked about when she first started going down this rabbit hole with me. She said, it's like dying. It's like the most painful thing I've ever had to do to internalize this stuff and rearrange my thinking and my I may be putting words in her mouth here, but I'm a lot more wordy than she is. So sometimes I have to put words in her mouth. She said it was like dying. It was like a mini death when she had to accept what the Bible had to say about her role. And a lot of it wasn't stuff I was beating her with and saying, oh, you got to do this. So much of this was stuff when she decided to accept the role of a godly wife, she went and found out what that meant. And she really internalized it and took it on, but it was very difficult. I've heard other women explain it that same way. When you really look at what God says about husbands and wives and the incredibly high standard he puts on a godly wife, and it is a high standard. It can be very hard for most women to accept. That's why they run off to focus on the family, which tells them these lies about, well, he's got to love you with the love of Christ and nothing else matters as long as you're safe and happy, and doesn't teach them what they're called to do. If you want to understand the incredible level of authority God gives to husbands and fathers, you read Numbers 30. And we don't have to go into all of it right here because you said you didn't want to go religious. But if you read Numbers 30 and you realize what God's saying in that passage about a husband and a father's authority, it is jaw-dropping. Jaw-dropping. Anyway, we can move on if you'd like, because I'll talk about this topic nonstop. Because the path forward, if there's a path forward, it's men being willing to be the revolting and revolt against the mainstream, which says you got to be a nice guy, and say no, that's not the standard. That's not what we're called to, and we have to live up to this standard, and that's a hard thing when you know what the standard is. Excuse me, I apologize.
And no, it's weird though. If you look at the churches that are growing, that are actually doing good, godly things, not worldly, secular things that are growing, but the churches that are actually growing by leaps and bounds, they're the denominations, for lack of a better word, that are going back to the roots of the faith, of this is what the Bible says we're supposed to do. This isn't what some guy who never had a job in the real world wrote down was the doctrine of the Bible 200 years ago, and we've been teaching it in seminary ever since.
It's not James Dobson doesn't tell you how to be a good husband. God tells you how to be a good husband. Yeah. Billy Graham doesn't tell you how to be a good Christian. God tells you how to be a good Christian.
And there's a lot of these guys, and it's not that they're doing it deliberately to be evil. It's just that they legitimately believe these things.
They're deceived.
And
they in turn deceive others. But you know what? I don't give them a pass. When you're Billy Graham's not too crazy. He's a little crazy, but he's not too far off. But when you're James Dobson and you say that your whole ministry, your whole reason, your mission in life is to teach people how to be a godly family, and then you go so far off the damn rails, you have no excuse. And James Dobson, I'm sure he's got a good heart, and when he goes to heaven, Jesus will welcome him with open arms. But I'm pretty sure when he's hugging him, he's going to whisper in his ears, "You dumbass," because that man has done more damage to the American family than than Caitlyn Jenner ever did. Anyway, I'm sorry. We were supposed to be done with that, and I kept coming back. I'll come back to that as much as you let me.
Has there been any questions in the side chat while I was whittling on this piece of soapstone?
How many people do we have with us?
I don't have a clue.
Oh.
Like 2.
Two. It's you and
Is it
me and
how
Mrs.
many
West.
people are in the room, bud? I had to close the window. I was like,
27.
how many?
Right now, 27.
We still got 27. Ooh.
So we didn't have any questions. I do have Oreo in my beard, though. Someone tell me how to get Oreo out of my beard.
Beard?
Shave the beard. She said shave the beard. But she's always telling me to shave mine. But it's mostly a defense mechanism. She knows that it attracts too many unwanted females and stuff. She started having to beat them off with sticks.
Yeah.
He's mine, like that. The I
think that's more Oreo.
got to respond. LS, you got me again, Dagan. I was deliberately not reading the chat. Hold on, let me read this. Where'd it go? Wife and women are bottom of the pyramid. Without a firm foundation, the house falls. The husband must fulfill their roles correctly, otherwise the foundation will crack. Yeshua gave an example, thankfully. If the I don't like the pyramid description of, nor do I really like the umbrella. The foundation upon which any family is built, any society, any church, any religion, any faith must be built for it to succeed, is the foundation of God. The truth of the gospel of Christ has to be the foundation of the religion. And gospel is the good news. It's not the truth. The word gospel does not mean truth. It means the good news. The good news that the Son of the living God paid the debt for our sins and gives us the opportunity to return to the Father with the remission of our sins, or by the remission of our sins. The foundation of the religion, the faith, the family, whatever, has to be God. Everything builds up from there. You build from the foundation. The umbrella or the top or whatever isn't a point. It's an all-encompassing. From that foundation radiates everything. Your position from that foundation, whether it's touching it or elevated above it or off to the right, as long as you are attached, firmly attached to that foundation, there's no specific, you're not actually reaching up away from the foundation of your faith. You're on your knees trying to get closer to the foundation on which your belief, your family, everything is founded. So, I mean, I know what you're trying to say, and I know I used to teach it myself, but
yeah, I can't see the questions or the comments, but it sounds like maybe he was coming from the right place.
Yeah, he's coming from. It's. I told you she left it, lady. LS is a young lady. She's your neighbor.
I'm familiar with LS. Yeah.
What was the question again? When would we respond to gun confiscation? Gun control. If it was up to me, we'd have shut that crap down a long time ago. There would be, yeah, a long time ago. I'm not real good on history and dates and stuff like Zach is or whatever, but Yeah. The minute, well, if I was in, where was that OK Corral thing at?
Tombstone?
Tombstone. If I was in Tombstone, I'd have shot White Oak right in the face. Boy, I got a constitutional right to carry this gun. You can't tell me I can't carry this gun. Bang. That's
I
when.
think when you can start tracing the problem began, I think it was in the 30s. As I remember, they passed a law in the 30s about certain machine guns. And that was kind of the first one, and everyone fell for it. Right after, and forgive me, Mrs. West, right after women got the right to vote, gun control started being a thing almost immediately.
Everybody, and that's another thing. The whole burning the bra thing. They started burning the bra when in the 60s or something like that. Bras weren't invented until like what 1920 something, 30 something. They're like they were not. It was not like something they used to wear forever.
You're not punishing me when you're burning your bra. You're encouraging me. I'm sorry.
You need a match, you know.
Did you remember the slut walks? They were like the early 2000s, and all these women got angry about slut shaming, so they all dressed up in like really revealing clothing, and they would do these marches through downtown, barely dressed at all.
I caught the tail end of one of those. Actually, I was in a big town or whatever, and it happened, and I'm like, I mean, I pulled up a chair. They didn't do the slutty thing. They literally just we were walking by naked. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, you're not changing my behavior here, ladies. I mean, what is it you're trying to punish me for? I mean, I wouldn't, sure as hell wouldn't marry any of you or date you, but if you're gonna give a show,
you're in that march, you're not for me. But the question is, what would set me off today?
Yeah.
The same thing that he talked about earlier. We don't need to be set off today. First, we need to get organized and turn it around. We need to start communicating with each other. I have my email on my About Me. You can email me and I will respond to your email. But I will not respond to emails calling for violent uprisings or anything like that. I just delete them. If you want to send me your snail mail address, and I'll send you a letter, and then you can mail me back. And if you want to correspond with me in writing through the United States Postal Service, I am more than happy to do so. And we can get organized, and we can start making phone calls. I will not text you. Okay? I will speak with you on the phone. I will write letters to you. If we want to get organized and rebuild the American militia to where we can actually have a voting voice, the militia does not have to resort to the use of their firearms to affect a change. If all the citizens who said they were willing to take up arms against this tyrannical government would just get together and vote the same, or get together and sign petitions, literally mail it around. You can mail it all over the country in just a few weeks. Get all the signatures on there. Send it up the line. One handwritten petition with actually signed names. Each signature counts for 100 people. Well, I'm not saying you're calling for violence, but I'm just saying we can't. It's right now, if any of us, and I don't know what to say. I mean, there's so many things. There's the red flag deals. That's wrong. That we should be pooling. We should have a GoFundMe to hire a lawyer to like sue them. Okay. The fact that it's not a constitutional carry in every state in the country, we should have GoFundMes to fund a lawyer to sue the government.
This is a long, hard fight. And if we want to win, first off, we have to convince men to stand up and say that, no, the government's not a moral authority. Just because the government says something doesn't make it right. And if we could just get men to say that, we would be a long way towards solving the problem. Because what do people do now? Well, it's a law. I've got to obey it. It's the law of the land now. And that's bullshit. you don't get to cede your moral authority to anyone. So we got to remind men who they are and what their responsibilities are. And then we've just got to get people to admit, to just be willing to articulate the concept that armed revolution against the government is a moral option, as our forefathers said it was, and enshrined in our Declaration of Independence that formed our country. I mean, the very country was formed by armed uprising against a tyrannical government. For us to say, oh, now suddenly that no, that's not the case anymore, it's ridiculous. And
the fact that
people just,
we can do it, and it's, you know, it's right when it gets to a point, which it's past the point, but we can't right now. We are not connected enough.
Yeah. So people who aren't willing to do that organization, and who aren't willing to even, you know, I get people all the time who tell me, well, I'm not going to let them find me. I'm just keeping quiet, keep my head down. Yeah, well, you're the problem, and you may be a nice, decent person, but you're causing our downfall. We have to be willing to at least face public censure by saying, oh, that the crazy stuff, you know, because that's what they want to paint us as, is crazy. But no, our institutions are not sacrosanct. No, we're not required to submit to a tyrannical government. And while we may have to comply with some statutes, we do it under protest, and they are not laws. And everyone's wanting to go from 0 to 100 with no in between. You know, the revolution didn't happen that way. As late as 1774, actually, no, I take that back. As late as 1776, as late as July 2nd on 1776, there were men who signed the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence who didn't think we should go to war with Britain and think we should still submit. As men who signed it, men who ended up signing it on July 2nd, 1776, had not made up their mind for independence yet. There had to be men who stood up and agitated for years. Starting in like 1765 is when there were people who started saying, well, this is going nowhere. And it was 11 years later before the Declaration was signed. And we can't go from 1764 to 1776 in an instant. We've got to go through all the steps along the way. And everyone who's wanting, uprising now, well, it didn't take us a day to get here. It's not going to take us a day to get out of here. And if you're not willing to be a part of the hard work going in, there's not a real good chance that you'd be willing to do the really hard work that comes later. So
I mean, these guys aren't even willing to put their bearded or non-bearded faces on a public forum and say, this is what I'm going to do, or this is what I think we should do. Call me, contact me. I mean, everybody's like, oh, I'm just worried about me. And as long as you're worried about you and yours, they win.
They win.
It's got to be us.
And that is scary. Now, I tell you honestly, that is scary. With all of my talk and all of what I say, I can't 100% guarantee you I'll be there. I can't 100% guarantee you I would have gone to the Bundy Ranch, even though that was completely the right thing to do. And those people who did that, are heroes. I can't promise you I would have done that. I can promise you for a fact I wouldn't have gone to that bird sanctuary in Oregon. But at least talking and pronouncing these truths is at least a step. And hopefully, if the time ever comes, we're willing to stand up and do our duty and protect freedom and try to secure a better world for our children and grandchildren, because that's really what it's about. Most of us, I'm 43. Things probably aren't going to get so bad between now and when I die that it's going to affect me. But, I just had a grandbaby last month before. I don't remember now. What's he going to have to face when he's 43? What are his children going to have to face? And then, there's just tyranny on the horizon. And once we're done with the secularists, we got some ugliness coming up behind them that's even worse. So
yeah, the other side is out there. They're using the news and this and that and everything else they're signing the petitions. Their petitions don't have hardly any names on them, but they're getting them out there. They're getting them into the whatever. They're answering the polls. They're willing to give up their emails to sign the things or whatever. And the missus would just like to point out that your grandchild is going to be calling someone younger than them uncle.
I get angry when men are like, "Oh, I'm ready to go. As soon as you go, I'll be there," and they talk like as soon as someone else starts it, they'll be there to be involved, and that just sounds like such a cop out to me.
Yeah, I trust you, buddy. Come on, yeah.
You go first. I'm right behind you.
You'll shoot the guy that killed me. Good job. Excellent work. Way to back me up.
You won't even put your name on a comment on a YouTube video. There are billions and billions of comments on YouTube videos. You won't even put your name to your comment on YouTube, but you expect me to think that you'll have my back if I go do something crazy. I'm not buying it, sir. You show your face, you put your name on this thing, you stand up and face the the public backlash and the ridicule and the ostracization, and then that's the first step to me trusting you. If you're not willing to do that, there's nothing about you that would make me think that I could trust you to show up, when it mattered. If you're not willing to put your face to the ideas beforehand.
Or like I say, I mean, we've had three meet and greets here in Texas, and
3 or 4. I thought we had
3 or 4, and we've only had there's been one guy outside the already we know each other.
Yeah,
people show up. One guy was talking about coming. I ran into him at another one, and not going to call him out by name or nothing, but he flat out said because he was afraid that who he was would get out. He didn't want to go. Right. And I'm like, then why are you at this one?
Yeah. What are you ashamed of? I've been really blessed over here. I don't know if Sasquatch and C103 are still on or not, but those are 2 guys along with several others. They'll come out and they'll shake my hand, and they're not coming out really for me. These are Viking meetings, so these are mostly Pastor Fox people, but they're willing to come out and just put a face and a name to their statements. I really appreciate that. We've had good turnouts for our meet and greets here. Like again, they're Viking meets, so it's a little bit of a different thing. We've got a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah,
we can.
And that's put it out. The last couple of ones I've done as Viking deals or whatever. I don't think I'm going to run them as a Viking meet and greet things anymore because around here everything's still Church of Christ, pretty much. Rob, calm down. Not calling out your.
Do you get Pastor Fox to put him on his Patreon?
I tried, but I don't think I pay enough rent. So,
well, he probably just missed it because he's pretty good about he those are a big push for him. So if you need
anyway, though, I'm just going with the Man Up thing or whatever, Mutual Assistance Networks, Unifying Preppers thing.
Mutual Assistance Network.
Man Up, that's it. And SOS calling that. It's it's Mutual Assistance Networking.
We could have the Revolting Men.
Yeah,
I like it.
And well, you have to. You and BA will have to get together and fight it over who's going to call the phrase. But BA did a deal, and he said he wanted to do the MAN, which is the Mutual Assistance Network, and it makes sense.
Good idea.
We don't care what faith. We don't care if you're Baptist, Mormon, Lutheran. Okay, I got a little bit of problem with the Lutheran, but we can work it out. And whatever, we don't care. We'll work together over that. It's not. We're all Americans. We're all wanting to stay, we each seek survival. Okay. That's our common ground.
You know,
After you join my mag, then I'll convert you. Okay.
There are some issues that need to at least be addressed. You know, you and Mrs. Wes would be more than welcome here. We would be ecstatic to have you with us, but we observe a Sabbath and we're adamant about it. You know, sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday is sacrosanct, and hopefully we'll go hungry before we violate our dietary laws. You know, I don't know if I haven't been there for sure. I don't know once the children are hungry and crying. I can't promise you I would, but you know, we wouldn't eat rabbit here. We wouldn't eat possum, and we're not condemning anyone who does. But these are important beliefs to us, and that wouldn't be done here. So you know, someone who wasn't okay with that needed to know beforehand that, you know, the revolting man has things that he's not willing to compromise on, and that so if you bug out to there, you've got to be willing to either abide by that or there'll be friction. Or there needs to be some system in place where, you know, you're like, I'm going to eat rabbit, but we're going to keep it away from you, and we're not going to, you know.
Which is actually,
I don't know. There's just issues there that need to be addressed.
My take of the word, that's actually a more biblical concept. And that's why it's important to me not to make it about, I don't want my meet and greets to be about Torah observance or non-Torah observance.
Well, now, meet and greets are different. I'm just talking about, you know, a bug out, a mutual assistance. If you're bugging out to someone's house, there are issues of faith that are at least relevant. Yeah, and I would never. I mean, I would let a Muslim. I would let him, you know, an atheist come to my meet and greet and interact with them fine and not treat them any differently. I'm just talking about if you're living in close fellowship and community, there are some things that you need to agree on.
Yeah, because it would be like super uncool, even in today's standards, for, you know, like you invite me and the missus over for a pizza night or whatever, and we bring Canadian bacon. You know, It just wouldn't be cool. So that's, you just don't do that. And like in Tiawaki or whatever, if you show up at somebody's house and you know that it's against the rules to do the pig thing or whatever, why did you load the pigs on the trailer? You know, why didn't you just like not bring them? Kind of thing. But the step one is getting together and working it out.
Yeah, these meetings are important. You need large amounts of people, so then folks can start forming their close networks out of this larger group. And then the small group, you know, I don't know if you saw this on, I'm going to say Pastor Fox again, but he talks about this on one of his videos, and it may be on his Patreon, where he talks about crews, and, you know, he's got all these layers of groups that get increasingly bigger and farther flung. And you don't start with the small group and move up. You start with the big group and move down.
Right.
And we have to start forming these big groups. These meetings are so important. And then meet people in person.
Let's say like me and Rob Painless, we're really close friends. Okay. Me and him get a mag down here. There's say 10 families get together. Yes, Rob, as Baptists or ex-Baptists and Church of Christ, we can't get along. Okay. But just because we're members of First Churches, okay, doesn't mean that we cannot be part of a mutual assistance network with a group of Hebrew Israelites in Georgia. Why? Where is that? Where's that written in the Constitution?
Nowhere.
Where's that written in the Bible that you and me can't be friends because there's a, you know, what is that, candlestick on your church and a cross on mine? Where is that?
The standard is Romans 10:9. You know, confess with your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord, in your heart that God raised him from the dead, and you shall be saved. That's the standard for fellowship as believers. And if someone meets that, that's a very minimum, you know, threshold to have to meet.
Right.
And if someone will meet that threshold, then I feel like I am required to fellowship with them as a Christian brother. Now,
That's,
I would say that
and when you
individual
go
groups
past
can have
that, though,
leadership.
you don't have to have, you and me don't have to be in an immediate group. All right. I don't have to have food stored at your house and you have food stored at my house and we have plans to bug out together, and because you and me have joined the same mag, I don't have to go. I'll have goats. Okay. Uh, Goats are a little bit more work than hogs as far as raising, and they're a little bit slower to put the weight on, but you get just as much protein and just as much fat out of a stinking goat. And whoever said that goats don't have fat on them in the chat last time, do not say that again, please. Our goats are fat. You can get your fat from a goat. You don't have to have pork to have bacon. I still haven't made the goat bacon, but I'm pretty sure it's possible.
And you can
There's
definitely make beef bacon. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, beef bacon. I've seen that. I haven't. They don't sell it here, but the
It's
thing
good.
is, you don't have to be just because one group. Now, if the one group is going to be disrespectful of the Torah observant, the total Torah observant, eating clean and everything like that. If the other group is going to be disrespectful of their belief system, then the group that's being disrespectful because, well, blah, 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 I'm going to eat bacon and them people are stupid. No, actually, you're wrong. You're not supposed to call somebody a fool for doing the level best that the Spirit has told them to do. You're not supposed to come out against them and say, well, you're just being an idiot. And that goes both ways. But if we all believe the same thing, that Christ is the Son of God, the only begotten Son of God, he lived, he died, he rose again. That's it. I mean, that's our starting point. That's where we get along.
Now, if someone wants to have a congregation, they don't have to accept into leadership someone who doesn't, believe what they do. But if you didn't let someone fellowship with you, that would be very wrong.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sorry, I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at Rob. He's like, Rob says he ain't gonna eat no goat. No, I think he must be from Denver, Colorado, or something. He all broken head.
No, they're a goat and a deer. They're like the same animal almost. Goat.
He just didn't. Somebody made him some goat and it wasn't done right.
I think what the problem is he's an old goat and he thinks it's going to be cannibalism or something.
He does know you, Rob. That's funny. Seriously, I took a piece of meat out of the freezer. I'm really good about writing down what I'm putting in there because I expect to be able to remember exactly what piece of animal that is by the shape of the plastic bag around it. Doesn't always work out. So I was pretty sure, still to this day, I think we ate goat, but we couldn't decide whether it was goat or wild hog. Honestly, we couldn't tell the difference in the flavor. So a couple days later, took out another piece, which looked awfully similar, but just was a little larger, and we cooked it. And again, same leg, different size, so it was off a different animal. There was only one goat in there. So that we know for a fact was probably the wild hog, except we couldn't tell the difference between it and the goat. So, yeah. Rob, you're going to try goat. The end. I'm going to bring a piece of goat up there and I'm going to cook it and they're going to eat it. Because you love me, brother. That's why.
I don't think I've had goat yet, to be honest with you, but it's not much different than mutton, and mutton is extremely good.
That's the trick. And he may not, the goat that we're enjoying is the mutton goat, which is the castrated goat. It was raised from a child with no testicles. It was confused. At the age of 3 years, we decided that it was going to not have a sex. And anyway, long story short, he got big, he got fat, and He's delicious. I think that the Billies may have a bit of a gamey taste to them if you don't do that prior to the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We just
But
did one for
either that is
Passover
still-
last year. He was 1 year old, and he had the biggest nuts I've ever seen on an animal. I don't know how that stupid sheep was able to walk, and he didn't taste gamey, but
Did you slit the throat?
yeah, because you can't break bones or anything, so I had to slit the throat, and it was
That's
it
not
was an
easy,
interesting moment. I had never done anything like that before, there was some, I've accepted Torah, and Torah is important in my life, so it may not have been as meaningful for someone else, but for me, as Christians, we'll just go back here. I'm sorry, I know you don't want to do religion, but I grew up in the Protestant church and Assemblies of God and Methodist and stuff, and Pentecostal, and so you hear about the Passover lamb and everything, and you think of it as being Jesus, sacrificing himself. But when I got to that moment and I was going to slit the throat on this lamb, and he was 1 year old, he was basically a full-grown sheep, and he was stinky, and he fought and he kicked me, and he was bleating and disgusting and dirty. I realized the Passover lamb doesn't represent Christ. He represents us, and our stupid sin nature and our disgusting, filthy habits. And the Passover lamb, you're sacrificing yourself there when you do that, when you're doing the Passover lamb, and it's not a sacrifice, but it's not representative of Christ. It's, for me, at least that year, it was representative of me, and all I could think of when I was dealing with that stupid animal with its smell and its shit on itself, and it was more representative of me than it ever was of Jesus. So,
well, if you think about it, it really is. See, because you've got God wants us. What is it? Die to ourselves and live to Him. And in order to do that, we have to die. And the Passover lamb, when you butcher it, it doesn't really want to do that. It fights to stay alive the whole time. It does not want to die like it's supposed to. And it's the deal with the Father. He has to literally put us through the ringer and teach us that we are going to die to ourselves if we want to live to Him. It's a whole lot easier just to go ahead and die than it is to fight to stay alive. I mean, does that make any sense? I mean, if you're going to kick and fight and claw the whole way and refuse to give in to Christ and God, then it's going to be a fight from now on. And it's going to end in the same thing. Just, in the spirit, dying to yourself and living to God. You get to live a happy, content, peaceful the rest of however long. There's probably going to be stickers and thorns and briars and wasps and stuff, but it's not going to bother you nearly as bad as, trying to fight and get loose, and you fall over into the mud and you poop yourself and you get in the thorns, and there's still a guy holding onto your horn and he's got a knife in his hands.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. It just, the last little bit of your life just sucked that much more. So what do we got?
I'm not sure how we got off, but we're talking about goats and sheep, but Passover's coming up again soon, and I'm looking forward to it. It's become a meaningful event for me.
The chronic wasting disease is a direct result of socialist propaganda. It showed up right about the same time this whole bra burning thing did.
Oh, jeez.
What? Y'all had stopped for half a second, so I came to say hi, but then you started talking again. So.
Hi.
Hi.
Hold on, I gotta get this flyer out again.
It's ugly, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't like it. I changed my septum ring and it's ugly.
If
They're
you take all that
all
metal out
ugly.
of your face, you wouldn't have to worry about it.
It's not all ugly, guys.
So
But this one is ugly.
Every one of those things are hideous.
They all need to come out.
Every one of them.
That's what the slaves always had in their face.
Here, let me fix it for you. There, that's better.
No. Shows ownership.
Anyway, yeah, that's my daughter.
I have a
She
really
thinks
cool
that
tattoo too.
well, tattoos
Look how
are
pretty
okay,
it is.
but I got to say that because I have tattoos, but not really. But I've never. Why? Because you're okay with tattoos, do you have to be okay with piercings? I can't stand body piercings.
You don't have to be. There's some body piercings that I think are just absolutely disgusting and.
Psst, and put your veil on. I don't have to look at those.
Yeah.
There's a dead fly in there.
She was such a sweet little girl.
I am sweet.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, yes. Put down the firearm. Anyway, yeah, that's my little girl.
I think the video's off. No one could see her, Wes.
Yeah, I could see her. Everybody could see her.
Oh, I can't see a thing. I've just got your profile picture, which looks like a 1970s folk singer.
Oh wow, my
It looks like you've done some Bob Dylan covers.
I get that. Was that everybody keeps accusing us of being, Rob? Who is that band? Black Betty or whatever. They did.
Hey, Black Betty, bam, ba-dam, ba-dam, ba-wham,
Yeah.
Blues Traveler. You have to look up Blues Traveler later. It'll be funny when you see him.
I don't know. The chronic wasting disease has been more than just
Anything with a hoof can get.
yeah, it's been around for a long time. They had problems with it getting into the cattle a long time ago.
Yeah, it's mad cow disease. It's the same thing as the mad cow disease.
They just nixed it back in the day. You know, if they found their herd with it, they just killed the herd. But it's hard to do that with it being in wildlife because you can't go out there and kill all the deer. Because
still all the most.
But we'll try.
Now is them trying to figure out a plan for something else. Same with AIDS.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that's like major, oh my gosh, is because they were messing with crap.
And on that note, seriously, people, who has seen a regular house sparrow in the last month? Has anybody seen a house sparrow?
Isn't it winter? Aren't they supposed to be like somewhere else?
No, they don't go anywhere. They live the same place all year long. I mean, they live in New York, everywhere.
I don't think I've seen any birds for a while, to be honest with you.
Dude, I was curious because I was like, where are all the sparrows out? So I Googled it. They're dying off all over the planet.
Really?
Yeah. They're going to put them on the endangered species list in India, dude.
Savage says he has sparrows. He stole them all.
You stole all our sparrows, Savage? I want some of them back. Hey, Rob, are there any sparrows up there around the feed and stuff where you're at? If anywhere, they would be there. See, and they should be like all over this stinking place, man. But have you seen, I mean, thinking back and going, oh yeah, we got 2 sparrows. Have you seen any sparrows lately? Have you put out a bird feeder? Everybody in the chat.
They moved east to put distance between themselves and California.
That could be it. You know, maybe that's it. But when one of the most prolific little birds in the animal kingdom starts disappearing, you know you've got a problem. Enough with the spraying every stinking insect out there because you don't like what it's doing to your garden or your hay field or whatever. I honestly think they took out because there's a lot of hay around here, and they had the army worms, and they sprayed a lot.
Dior's.
Hey, Dior's. Yes. And anyway, they keep saying that me and Rob are the one bass player and guitar player or whatever for them or whatever. They keep posting the video on everywhere, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. So we just keep admitting that our secret's out, and we're actually secretly retired hippie rock and roll dudes.
Yeah, sure.
Did you always believe in God as an adult, Wes?
I have believed in God. Well, I've wondered about God my entire life. I accepted Christ as my Lord and Savior when I was 17 years old. I was less than diligent about seeking His will in my life until 84, when I rededicated and was baptized into the First Christian Church, the Disciples of Christ. And I have diligently sought His truth and His wisdom since. There has been good times and there has been bad times. I have yet to sign a divorce paper.
Gold was missed here.
So in my adult life, I have always believed in God. My belief in God is constantly, now, hold on, not my belief, but my understanding of who God is constantly narrowing, but at the same time expanding to the point where I now realize that God is literally everywhere. God is right because God is God. And if you want to be right, you have to do what God says you're supposed to do. And that's the tricky thing. That's the realization that I'm trying to come to terms with now. So, yes, answer your question. Most of it. The better part of it. And who is that? That I said? Oh.
Yes.
Am I prepper? And that good question. Am I prepper? Thanks for wondering.
Can I answer that question when you're done, Wes?
Sure. Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to go first?
In fact, the field is yours. I have to go check some plumbing in the back room.
Okay. So, am I a prepper? Now, you asked Wes, so I'm answering. And I've got two thoughts on this. The first is most people who claim to be preppers aren't preppers because they're not preparing. They're buying gear, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with buying gear. Gear is fun. I like gear. But if you're a prepper, depending on what you think you're preparing for, gear's not what you need. You need food and the means to produce more food and to acquire more food. And you need to be preparing for yourself to live in a greatly reduced state of quality of life. And buying gadgets that require batteries and power ain't prepping. Prepping is ways to produce enough water to keep yourself alive and clean, and keep rain out of your house when your shingles are degrading and there's no more shingles, and how to produce food. So I would say I'm not a prepper. I actually would say I'm prepped, believe it or not. We have our system in place that I think we could survive and and a greatly reduced quality of life, of course. But I believe that we have the systems in place to produce the calories we need to keep body and soul together. But the caveat to all this is most people who are preppers are don't they want the reset, or they're thinking about the reset because they know there's something wrong. They know that the world and our country is out of whack, and they need to get back in whack. And the collapse, the reset, is the easy way for that to happen. That doesn't require major sacrifice. It takes the onus out of our own hands. And so most preppers really should be militiamen because they want the collapse, because they want the reset to happen, because they know it's needed. They know society has gotten so far gone that something has to happen to change it, and the reset's the easy way to do that. You know, the EMP is the easy way to accomplish that. So most preppers aren't really prepping for, you know, the Yellowstone super caldera or the EMP or, you know, whatever. Most people are really mollifying their conscience for not doing more to change the situation we live in right now, because resets, collapses are very, very rare throughout history. Very rare. I mean, we're talking the Black Plague, and you could make an argument for World War II in Europe, you know. Other than that, not very many global resets or even regional resets. It's just not, it just doesn't happen that often. You know, localized resets, volcano here, earthquake there, tsunami. I'm not saying bad things don't happen. They do, and you should be, you know, reasonably prepared for the natural disasters that your area are prone to. But people who go beyond that and are worried about, like I said, the super volcano, the EMP, you know, all that stuff, frequently those people are substituting in those concerns for the realization in their conscience that we need a total revamping of our society, and that accomplishes it easier than us doing the hard work of standing up and taking a stand for what's right against what appears to be very powerful evil. So am I a prepper? Sort of. And actually fulfilling your role as the general militia, you actually will become prepped if you do that. But I'm not a prepper in the sense that I think our desire for our lifestyle encompasses prepping anyway. You know, if the collapse came tomorrow, we'd be okay. If it never came, we still want to live a lifestyle where we're unplugged from this corrupt system. So for us, it's not so much about being a prepper as it is recognizing that we can't be a part of this world, or we have to be as little a part of this world as we can. And I don't. That was a lot of babbling for no real reason. So I strive to accomplish the goals of prepping, but for very different reasons and to a whole different level. And if that sounds like arrogant, giving myself airs, I apologize. I also want to take this moment to add that for this whole time, I thought that you guys could see me in a little tiny box in the bottom of your screen, and I've been making all kinds of funny faces and doing comedy bits with Oreos, and nobody saw it at all. Whole thing was wasted. Comedy gold lost to the world. Quite possibly the funniest thing to ever go on YouTube, and the whole world missed it. Are you back, Wes, or do I need to keep talking?
I was listening.
Oh, okay.
I'm eating a Pop Tart.
Because
this is LS. This is a keto-friendly Pop Tart. It's made out of bacon.
Whatever.
I'm sorry, I had no supper.
We've recently found out that a whole host of things might have pork in them that we had no idea about. You know, basically anything with gelatin in it has a good chance of having pork in it. So no more Rice Krispie treats on the homestead. We also found out, and this is no joke, look this up. There is an additive used in many things that have fake raspberry and fake vanilla in it that is harvested from the anal secretions of a beaver, and I am not making that up. If you eat cheap vanilla ice cream, you've probably eaten beaver anal secretions. And if that doesn't shake your faith in the system, nothing will.
Dude, I love vanilla ice cream, or loved vanilla ice cream, and it's strawberry, Robert.
Well, double check. I can't remember what the name of the additive is, but it is derived from the anal secretions of beavers.
It's like, you ain't catching me going, oh, trans, whatever, cross-dressing stuff. I'm not putting mascara on. That's bat crap.
Really?
It's not happening.
That comes from guano, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's better to slather it on your face than it is to eat it.
I have to go in a building that has guano in it. Man, that stinks. Why would you want to put that on your eyes?
That's supposed to be a really good fertilizer, though. Like,
And
you get a bunch of guano? If you have a lot of it, you're... It used to be
when they cleaned the
like,
building out, originally they filled up two 6-yard trailers, man.
Wow.
Well, that crap, man, hauled it to the dump ground.
They're literally, there's been places where the Europeans colonized islands because there were large guano deposits, and it was such a valuable resource. Because fertilizer
This
was
guy
hard to
bought
come
a cheap piece of real estate that he thought was cool and stuff, and then when he opened up the upstairs, he realized that bats had been living in it for the past 15 or 20 years. So
pretty much all you can do is burn that down.
no, I scraped it out. They pulled the floors, stripped out the walls, plugged all the holes, got rid of the bats. Now they're going to foam it and redo it.
To start.
It's an old building. What do you call it? It's got historical significance.
So those were famous bats, huh?
No, the bats not so much. I'm surprised somebody didn't get onto him for running the bats out of downtown. You know what would happen if all the bats disappeared? How bad this planet would be?
Oh, you know what? It could be like the Indians. When they lost one arrow, they shot another to go find it. We lose the bat to find the sparrows. That's not a good idea, huh?
No, I like that idea.
I thought I'd solve the problem, but apparently not.
That's if we don't have any bats to eat the flying insects, and we don't have any sparrows to eat the crawling insects, picnics are going to blow. I'm just saying.
The greatest comedian in the history of possibly the world, but certainly America, was a guy by the name of Jim Varney. And he got his start in the 80s. What's that?
You mean Jerry Clower, right?
Oh, no. Actually, no. Jerry Clower is probably better. You're right. I will give Jerry Clower best ever credit. And possibly James Gregory, too. We'll call this guy number 3.
Okay.
But he got his start in the 80s doing regional cable commercials. So he did a bunch of stuff for like dairies and Sprite, and he did car commercials and everything. And he was pretty funny. But he did this commercial for the United Way one year. And I can't do his voice, but he said, we've all got to pitch in and do our part, because if I don't do my part and you don't do your part, or if you don't pitch in your part and I don't pitch in my part, we won't have a part to pitch in.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's one of my favorites.
You know what? That guy did a commercial here. And I can't do the ditty on here. I'm not going to do the ditty on here, but it was funny.
Yeah, he was pretty funny. He did a car commercial for a dealership in Atlanta, and he was at his buddy's wedding, and he was telling his buddy all about how he was at his buddy's daughter's wedding, and he was telling his buddy how much his daughter reminded him of all the new Toyotas down at the dealership. And one of the things he said was, and there's lots of room for all the kids.
Yeah. There's up the road a little ways, there is a place that makes cider.
Mm-hmm.
You know, apple cider. It's in a town called Dickens. and that's the name of the cider. And he made a ditty, and that's as far as that explanation goes. But I would listen to it and I would laugh, because he did it with his straight voice or whatever.
Yeah.
And anyway, Rob, did you ever hear that? He might have gone to bed. But anyway, yeah, it was fun. If this was like Small Onion, I might put it on Small Onion's channel, because I can remember it. I just can't put it on here. For those of you who are in here who weren't in here when this started, subscribe to my other channel, Wes, that's the real one, because some of my live streams are going to get moved around, and if you want to catch them, then you're going to have to catch them over there. Okay. That was all of that. See, now he doesn't realize when he makes noise, it jumps up onto the main screen.
Well, that's what Mariah was telling me. I went in there to see if she thought all my faces were funny, and she's like, "I hadn't seen any. You got to talk."
Well, see, that's whenever. See, you can't. Whenever you're not talking, and I'm talking, you're a little screen down here, and everybody can see you down here in the little screen. So everybody else got to see what you were doing, even though you didn't. So.
Well, that's cool. Well, I hope they all enjoyed the show, because I was most brilliant.
I imagine I was probably talking too much and didn't get to see any of it.
Well, there was the
what are y'all going to do with your garden? Have y'all decided what you're doing with your garden yet?
Yeah, so as soon as it dries up and I can get up there, I've got the top part covered in manure, and so I'm going to spread it and till it and or plow it and then use or harrow it, disc it, and then we'll put in the cold weather crops if it's not too late. So we're going to put in some broccoli. We're going to do a bunch of carrots this year. We're going to try full-scale carrots for the first time. Kale, lettuce. We're going to get the onions in. Mariah's in the other room. She remembered better than I would. I know we're going to put in a bunch of Irish potatoes again, a bunch of half cans. I'm sorry, we're supposed to call them half cans now. We're going to put a bunch of half cans in, even though we never get much out of them. Oh, English peas. We'll put in a bunch of English peas. And something else. I don't remember what. And then we'll start working on the bottom for the regular crops. We're going to do sweet potatoes again. I want to do wheat this year. I want to do a fair section of wheat. So we'll fill in everything we normally do: sweet potatoes, okra. I think we said sunflowers. I think we're going to do green beans, but we're not going to do any other beans or peas because the bean beetles were so bad last year. We're going to do all the corn down at my father-in-law's place. He's finally got his place up and running, and he's got about 2 acres down there. Probably only till up an acre of it this year, but we'll do sweet corn and maybe some field corn and the lima beans or I can't remember what they're called, but the dried beans we'll do down there. And then put the rest in wheat up here.
The corn. You know how you had the problem with the stuff in the buckets messing up or whatever?
Yeah.
I did some research into that. Yep. Not because, but you take the corn, even after it's dry on the stalk or whatever, you take the corn, you shuck it, and then you put it in a crib and you let it dry more on the cob before you take it off the cob.
Yeah.
That's the trick, because I'm thinking about trying corn again, and I don't want it to be a waste of time. If I do get corn in, I didn't want it to mess up on me after I get it. I get it in the, I pull it in the garage and forget to close the door kind of thing. I don't want to do that. And it's I would still be sick, man, if I lost 250 pounds of corn, dude. I'd be sick.
I think it was about 200. I think we kept about 50 pounds and we lost about 200 pounds. I don't remember now. But it was heartbreaking. And it was totally my fault. I should have, like you said, left it on the cob. but we tried to get industrial on it. We thought, it seemed like it was dry. It was hard to the touch.
And see, I used to think that whenever they were doing the old Civil War movies and stuff, and they always showed the guys running to the corn crib and the corn was still on the cob in the corn crib, that they were just doing it for cinematic effect. It's actually a historically correct depiction, because while on the cob, if it's in a cool, dry place, the corn won't go moldy. During the dry spell, the corn and the cob lets the air sweat off, and then if it's still on the cob and the humidity comes up a little bit, it doesn't stay on the corn. The cob absorbs it. It's like God meant it to be like that or something. It's really weird.
You know what frustrates me is that we've been to Cades Cove up there in Tennessee, where they preserve all those old houses and homesteads, and I've seen the corn cobs and read that that's how they did it. It just never clicked with me that you should do it that way. I thought it was just how they did it, because that's how they did it. I didn't stop to think that our forefathers were pretty smart people and they did things for a reason. So it was a hard one.
That's the one that's kicking my butt. I regret every mayonnaise jar I ever threw away now. Ball jars are expensive.
Yeah.
When you think about, I'm going to go buy 12 jars and they're $11, like that's not too bad. But then when you realize, 12 jars is not enough. So
I mean, that's not even weeks worth.
When you buy the already canned green beans for 89 cents a pint, and you're fixing to pay 89 cents for the jar to put them in. So,
and you know what else is sort of worrisome is you've got to have lids with gaskets that are good on them. So you may have an 89-cent jar or $1 jar, but that doesn't mean you get to use it forever. It's only good until that lid's not good anymore.
That was the beauty of the old mayonnaise jars, Miracle Whip jars and stuff. They were a ball cannon jar, just they didn't say ball on them. There was the same flats and everything. You could reuse them all over the. My mom used to keep and I've started doing it, the jelly jars, and she would put the new flat on the jar, and she would use the jelly, the lid that came with it, as a way to hold it in place until it clinked, and then she would just take the old lid off. My mom was creative. She
leave the flat on there.
Yeah, and the flat, you don't have to leave the rings on there. People buy rings every time they buy flats. You don't need rings. The rings don't actually do any work. So it's a rubberized vacuum seal. If it's going to leak, it'll leak whether the ring's on it or not.
The ring doesn't seal anything.
Right. So, we always do, when I take, the way I do it, I put just let it kind of touch real solid. And then when I take it out and set it down, I give it a little bit more of a turn to press the rubber a little bit more to make sure, not hard. I don't want to run that rubber all the way down because it doesn't need to be. And they seal right away every time. So we've canned vegetables and some fruits and some meats. We're really surprised at how the meat turned out.
Was it good?
We canned sausage, for crying out loud. That sausage is delicious. We did a little bit of venison, and we did some wild birds that we caught. So you can can anything.
Yeah, I've read about people canning raw chicken, but it seems like it cooks while you're canning it, so it doesn't seem like it'd be raw.
It's not raw. We did our chicken. We went ahead and I don't know, I guess about halfway boiled it, and then deboned it, and put it back in the broth and got it at temperature and then put it in the jars. And we didn't, because we just left it in there. We didn't leave it up in there. I think if they wanted it like 90 minutes or something like that. But it was already up to temperature when we put it back in the canner. So I think we left it at 60 minutes instead of the 90 minutes. And it's fine. It hasn't killed us yet. We've got, how much chicken we got in there? Canned chicken do we have? Like 20-something jars of canned chicken? We got a lot of chicken. We got a lot of canned chicken. And because you can dry meat and vacuum seal it and it'll last a year or so. Or you can can meat and it'll last, if you leave the grease in it, if it has the oil in it, like the fat and stuff, it will last 5, 6, 7 years. You keep it out of the sunlight in that jar. So yeah, that's your best option before it starts to turn, even starts to break down and do anything. It's good for, at least 4 years. So,
I have read that in the old days that they used to use butter and they would cover poultry in butter. Now, I don't know if, I assume they cooked it first. Maybe not though. I don't know. But they would just cover the whole thing in butter and it would last for several weeks. Now, I guess you got to have a bunch of butter.
That'd take a lot of butter, but back in the day, you got a cow making 2 gallons of milk a day. That's, that's going to be half a gallon of butter a day.
Yeah.
That's a lot of butter. So.
Yeah, they'd have to do something with it all.
I don't know. I have vaguely and only in passing considered a dairy cow. A dairy cow is not something that a single family wants. We could not use all of the dairy products.
Yeah.
From a dairy cow. I would like to have a milk goat. Mm-hmm. All we have is a Spanish nanny, and she makes enough milk for the babies, and that's it. Which I guess you can milk Spanish goats too. They just don't make as much. If anybody wants to try to milk mine, they're more than welcome to give her a shot. But I'm going to have the camera rolling when you're doing it. She doesn't like hands on her at all. So she's been at this a while. She's got her a decent set of horns. She can get you from back there. So she's a well-mannered goat. She minds her own business. She stays off the furniture. She stays off the vehicles. She eats.
Yeah.
And she keeps babies. She's like the best goat ever. She doesn't come up and bite you or try to get in your lap or climb on your stuff or nothing like that. I like the lady goat. But
I think our family could probably, right now, while there's so many kids, we could probably drink all the milk from a small dairy cow. Not a Holstein or anything, but maybe an old Jersey or something. When I say old, I mean an old style Jersey when they were.
Yeah, the new ones, the ones that they've not genetically modified by breeding and inbreeding that they have done, that make 20 gallons a day or whatever it is they do.
Yeah.
They can't put on any weight because that's all they're doing is making milk.
Mm-hmm.
They keep the feed troughs full all day long at that dairy. Yeah. And they feed them sugars and fats. And I mean, they feed the dairy cows better than they do. Well, I don't know, maybe not better, but every bit as well as they do as cows that go to the feedlots. And those cows in the feedlots, they eat good. They get freaking cornflakes, man. They have a giant cornflake machine. It sits there and it makes cornflakes all day long, and they feed cornflakes to the cows. I'm not lying, am I, Robert? I mean, they literally have a giant cornflake machine. I've thought about doing the orphan bull, but I have to go over there. I have to pay for it before I get it, and I have to be there when they pull it out. And I've only got a 50. The calf runs $100, and I stand a 50-50 chance of it living or dying. So if I buy 2 for $200, I have a 50-50 chance that each one of them will die. You know, sometimes you get lucky and they both make it. Sometimes you don't, and you just threw $200 away because they both died. They can give them a shot, which a lot of people think it's like vitamins or this or that or whatever. It's not. It's actually a painkiller and a sedative to cause them to relax and get up off their feet, because they literally, before their umbilical cord is severed from the placenta, they band this calf and it throws it into shock. So they have to give it the shot to bring it out. The jerseys, you only have a 25% chance of the calf living, the bull calf living. I don't know why they're so more prone to die than the others, but and you cannot buy the cow. They won't sell the cows. The female calves or whatever. Those get put straight over to the pens, and they get bottle fed and then bred back, and they go right back into the milk production and stuff. And when a cow gets old and crippled, she gets put on the sale trailer and up to the hamburger factory. So dairy business is a very competitive thing.
Yeah, we used to have a big dairy around here. They had like 300 or 400 head, which I assume is big. It seemed big to us, but they have since retired, and I guess no one wanted it because they shut her down.
How many they got across the road? 2,800, something like that.
Oh wow!
And they're expanding.
Those big operations like that around here, as land is, it's just at a premium. You know, it's hard to find large acreages available. Mostly because the government owns a lot of it. Like in our county, only 1/3 of the land is available for private ownership. The rest is locked up in national forest. And Georgia Power. Georgia Power owns a fair amount. And a Corps of Engineers. The Corps of Engineers has a lot too. So we've got a lot of entities around here that suck up the land.
Well, we got these guys. They lease land that guys don't want to try to farm anymore, and put hay on it. And they buy whenever they can. They buy properties and put them. They put in a lot of hay. They put in milo, sorghum, whatever you want to call it. And as soon as it makes seed tops, and the seed tops are about nearly mature, they'll cut it into silage, and they ferment it, and then feed it to the cattle. And usually they get 2, sometimes 3 cuttings a year off each one of their fields. So if it's a good year for rain, or if they have a circular irrigation on it. I mean, their feed cost is nearly nothing. They only have to seed the field once to get enough feed to take them all the way through the winter months. They don't have to buy any hay. So, I mean, they're manufacturing their own hay, but you'd be surprised what a guy with a 42 series John Deere can do. You know, it doesn't. They've got 5 or 6 trucks that they use just to haul the feed out of the fields when they're harvesting it. And if they're running one of the fields that's a little further away, the cutters actually have to, even with that many trucks, the cutters still will have to slow down and wait for the trucks because they can't keep up with the amount of. They probably got, I don't know what, 15, 20 acres over there that's just in silage getting ready to feed. It's crazy. And that's not a big dairy. It's black and white for as far as you can see, though. There's a buttload of cows over there. Yeah, that new barn they're putting up, that's pretty.
It's massive.
That's bigger than a school. But they're bringing in 200 or 300 more. I mean, the cows that just spread back or whatever.
Think about a city block or something.
It's weird though. They're not planning on keeping the cows out of this deal because they're breeding them to that Black Angus. So all those are gonna be beef cattle. They're gonna be feeder cows. And I am so sorry. I'm talking to my wife and not talking to y'all. Yeah, agriculture's still big in my part of the world. So it's a lamp. I can see a lamp. So egads. We've been on here 3 hours. So does anybody have any serious?
How many people are still watching?
I don't know.
23.
23.
Damn, Wes, you can hold their attention.
They come and go. These people don't have a life. I don't know what it is. It's either that or it's like, I think it's the beard. I'm really sorry. I'm not going for a record. No more 4-hour chats. My eyes are about to fall out of my head right now.
You've done a 4-hour chat?
My record is, I think, 4 hours and 40 minutes, man.
That's almost a 5-hour chat.
And the runner-up to it is one you were in. Thank you very much, Mr. Revolting Man. I was like 3.5 hours or something like that.
Wow. Well, we're interesting couple of guys, you know.
I guess so. I mean, if these people are willing to set in, which we really appreciate y'all hanging with us and talking and the questions and everything. But if I mean, I've done it before. I've sat in live chats and listened to guys just banter back and forth for hours, so I can't cut on them too bad. But at least they have taste. They have taste in conversation.
That is true.
It's true.
There's a lot of really lousy live streams out there that could have been watching, but they chose this one.
They chose
and
this
sometimes
one.
Quality is hard, you know.
It really is. It's harder for some channels than others. But any of y'all that are my subscribers that are not subscribed to the Revolting Man, I strongly suggest that you give him a look, see, and like, share, subscribe, and comment on all his videos how all of his subscribers should come over and subscribe to me. And
we're on Wes's channel, so obviously anyone here already knows about Wes, but Wes has been to our house. His lovely wife has been to our house. We cherish the time we got to spend with them. They were lovely people, good guests.
And when we go back, we're going to bring a bigger tent. No, just joking.
Actually, I've got a big tent you can use, so just come on.
Cool. What?
Show him this one.
You got another one already? Which one's this one? Oh, I didn't see this one. Art, Tom. For all y'all that got to see the unicorn. Can I have this one?
Yeah.
Cool. Did I sign it?
I can sign it here in a sec. I'm taking it with me.
I got a new painting. What'd y'all get? I'm going to have it on the wall back there. Dear, hey, what about the war that's about to take place over in Venezuela? Hold on. Let me ask that.
As long as we stay out of it. We've got nothing to gain down there. All we'll do is get blamed for whatever happens. Although, now I will say this, and it could be fake. It's hard to tell. But there has been some chatter that Hezbollah or Hamas has been setting up cells in Venezuela. And if that is true, then we do need to get out there and clean out the rat's nest. The problem is, at this point, we've been lied to so many times that it's hard to know if that's true or not.
All righty. Wes S. wanted me to answer a question about this Venezuela place. Venezuela ain't nowhere close to us. Venezuela don't share no border with us. It ain't none of our damn business what goes on in Venezuela. We just need to bring our boys home and leave it be. If we got to blow them up, we got to blow them up, but we don't need to send nobody down there to do it. That's what I think.
I have to agree with that.
So, yeah.
Venezuela. Although, now let me say this as well. I have been to Venezuela when I was a teenager. Or no, right after I graduated high school. I graduated high school right before I went to the Marine Corps. So I was a teenager. I went to Venezuela on a missions trip for 2 weeks. Beautiful country. Beautiful people. It is terrible what socialism does to countries. When I was there, I loved it.
And theirs was actually going to be a different. And y'all are not tricking me into staying on it for 4 hours and 43 minutes. But the particular brand of socialism that Venezuela had in mind had not as to yet been tried. Had the oil market not been flooded with available reserves when they first started doing this, therefore plummeting, causing the price of oil to plummet, they would not have had nearly the problem getting off the ground that they do. I am not suggesting that they, nor the United States alphabet soup, had anything to do with destroying their economy, thereby ruining any chance of their particular, which it wouldn't have worked anyway, but it wouldn't have failed this fast. I mean, it went from boom, we're socialist to boom, we're starving to death. Because it was based on an industry. Granted, they did steal the oil from a bunch of rich people that didn't live there, which kind of made a lot of people mad. It was kind of uncool how they went about it, but still.
The thing is, as soon as they nationalized the oil industry down there, their output started dropping dramatically.
Yeah.
And even there towards the end, right before the oil prices crashed, Venezuela was considered an inconsequential producer because their output, their barrels per day was just plummeting because the government was running the damn industry. And what does the government do? It hires people and generates paperwork, and that's it.
And it was kind of hard for them to get the stuff down there. Like I say, I mean, the people that knew how to do what they needed done weren't going to stay there, because if they did, they would never work again after they left. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that go into it. They were doomed. Socialism is doomed. It cannot work. I'm sorry. It sounds really nice, where you just get to live because you're alive, and because you're alive, you're worth something. I mean, that's a really, really sweet sentiment. But I'm sorry, the guy who can weld stainless steel underwater is worth more money than the guy who can paint Mickey Mouse on some little girl's cheek at the park.
Yeah. Socialism has always been about, centralizing the economic output in a few people's hands. It's just tyranny in another form. They tried to sell feudalism to the serfs as good for them. That socialism is nothing different than serfdom all over again. They put some different names on it. They slapped a coat of paint on there, and they said, "Look, come be our slaves again. It's in your best interest." Nothing's different. Nothing's changed in China for the last 5,000 years. Russia under the Soviets was no different than Russia under the Tsars. They just put different people in charge. Socialism is a crock of shit.
Dry fire. Go to you're going to have to go to your creator studio, and it gives you options for customizing your deal. You have to put up content. You have to lay out how you want your channel to be presented to people when they click on your channel.
Yeah, but he posted a video about guns, so I'm sure that's why he's being squashed.
Oh, yeah, and you've got to be very careful about how you title and stuff. And you've got to use big, like 3 or 4 letter syllable words and stuff.
You know what was funny about Dry Fire's video that he's just talking about? And I looked at it myself. He had 2 views and 5 likes, which just seems mathematically improbable.
It is improbable. Oh, man, I almost stuck my foot in that one. Change the subject.
But more than likely, it's because he's putting up stuff that YouTube doesn't want out there.
Yeah, if you're putting up stuff that YouTube doesn't want out there, you're not going to get the stuff unless you're manufacturing your views, and then, yeah, they're going to take them down. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Wes and I were talking about this before we went live, Dry Fire. Your videos are no different than my videos. You talk about stuff, directly. There's no real reason why, and actually you do some editing and put some interest and stuff in your videos. There's no reason why your videos don't get the views my videos get. So it'd be interesting to know, and my videos don't get that many views. I'm not acting like, I'm Demolition Ranch or anything. It's just, I do get some views.
I love that
guy. And, my videos are probably not to the level of Dry Fire's are. So I'd be interested to know what the disconnect is there. And especially this last one. If you haven't, y'all go check out Dry Fire's most recent video.
And I apologize, Dry Fire. I've been sewed up in a bunch of stuff. I hadn't been watching much anybody's videos.
Yeah, I don't get to watch other people's videos as much as I would like. Even Demolition Ranch.
Hey, and somebody asked, Zach, how's your job? How's your new job?
I really like my new job. It's a really good job. It's kind of a low stress job. We make some high dollar components for the electrical grid, and they have a long shelf life, or a long service life of about 35 years. So they just want you to be really careful and take your time, and they don't want anyone to get hurried. And so it's interesting work. It feels like significant work. The plant is air conditioned, which I've never experienced in a plant. So I'm really looking forward to the summer. It's going to be just a very pleasant, it's a clean environment. It was really an upgrade from my last job. And there's no overtime, which is a good and bad thing. It's nice, getting off at 3 p.m. and coming home to a fairly full afternoon. But that overtime does pay the bills. So it's kind of
So now you're going to have to get you a side thing going. You're going to have to start making cedar furniture or something in your own time.
Well, we have resisted starting a Patreon hitherto. And I feel like we maybe have to break down and have a Patreon now. Bear Independent had that mission trip he was really passionate about down there in Florida. and I wasn't able to go because of funding. And I think like he felt like I should have been there, and I agree with him. I probably should have. He got this close to us, and I didn't go down and help him, but I couldn't swing it money wise. So I can't keep making excuses like that if I haven't done everything I can to try to make those resources available. So we'll start a Patreon, and if anything comes out of it, we'll use that money to maybe do some of these things, that like maybe being able to go see bear, or maybe who knows, one day we could get invited to Shofar Mountain, or go up to visit Sasquatch or something, and advance some of these things we're talking about so much. But these meet and greets, they just require some travel, and Wes, you came all the way out here for them, and the monetization thing is great, except that on a regular month we make about $35 to $40 in a regular month, and YouTube doesn't even send you a check till you've got at least $100. So we'll go 3 or 4 months, or 3 months. We never go 4 months. We'll go 3 months maybe and get $120, $140 check. And that's just not enough resources to be able to invest back in some travel and maybe some of the things we would like to do with the channel. So I know some people don't like the Patreon, and in the past people have thanked us for not having one. But we're going to have to do it now, just if we want the channel to grow and maybe be able to just invest some stuff back into it. We have a hard time doing live streams because we have to borrow my daughter's cell phone because that's the only device in the house that can live stream from here. So we'd like to maybe be able to upgrade our camera equipment. Although Wes S and Mrs. Wes has helped us with that. The one they got for us doesn't live stream. So that was a very long, involved explanation when you said we got to get a side gig going. YouTube was supposed to be the side gig when I started it. And when I got in was right before the adpocalypse. And we had like 1,000 subscribers when adpocalypse hit. And we were making a shocking amount of money. I think it was close to $100 a month at that point. And we were a tenth the size we are now. So if things were still going the way they were before the adpocalypse, we'd be bringing $1,000 a month. And there would be no need to ask anyone to help us out. Unfortunately, YouTube knows that they don't have to pay. That's all YouTube profit now. They know they don't have to pay the creators. So
that's why I do my Patreon the way I do. I put everything on Patreon, and basically the $1 a month that gets you you get to see it before everybody else. You get to, chances are if you see a video on my channel, as soon as it pops up, there's already going to be 2 or 3 comments on there. There's going to be 7 to 10 views on there because I throw it up on Patreon first. Because the people that give me my little bit of money, and it's not much. I don't have very many patrons over there, but they've made a commitment to Wes S, the real one, and that's my Patreon deal. And they deserve it. I mean, they've said with their pocketbook that they're going to stand behind my channel and they're going to help me do what I'm trying to do. So they deserve it. And there's a couple that actually get text or email notifications before anybody else gets to see the video because, well, they're really cool people. And that's just the way I do it. And then I give everybody on Patreon a chance to see. I get a week to 10 days. Well, I've been doing it. First, I did it for 3 days, just Patreon. Then it would go public. And now I'm doing it 7 days. I put a video up. It stays on Patreon for 7 days. And then it goes public. And then I'll leave it up another 3 or 4 or 5 days or whatever and let anybody that's just following me on Patreon watch it. And then I go over and edit it on YouTube and make it public. And then everybody gets to watch it. So now there are some people out there, because the way you do a Patreon deal, you have to upload your video to somewhere else, and then you have to link it to your Patreon account. There are people out there that will actually go over and copy your link, and they will share it around, so people are getting to watch it for free. You know, they get the jump on everybody else.
Yeah.
And well, that's uncool. I love it too.
But you know, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. The people who are going to support you, I would imagine, are going to support you whether or not they get the video free first. That's my guess.
That's the ones that support me above and beyond over there. They do it with that. I mean, they were doing it before I ever put a video up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the beauty of it. Patreon, and you get most of the money from Patreon. Like
like 5%.
It's so
it's not like YouTube keeping whatever amount it is of your chat money. They keep like 500% or something. I can't remember what it is. I don't have that turned on for mine. So.
And the while we're on the Patreon thing, there's a couple. I don't know, two right now. I almost did one today. Probably should have. I'll probably do one tomorrow. But I do rant videos over there that I'm not gonna put on YouTube because well, I'm gonna get the big yield sign like that.
Yeah.
I bet when I check, this one's got the yield sign on it already. So you know what I'm talking about, right? You've seen it. The yield sign with the exclamation point right in the middle of it. This video is not suitable for ads. I get that on every other stinking video, man.
It's like a money sign with a slash through it for us when we see it. Not suitable for all advertisers.
Yeah. Mine, I get I get the yield sign, and then when I click on it, the other one pops up with the not suitable for ads.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny the ones they'll demonetize too. Like they hate Mariah. They'll demonetize all her videos. It's crazy. They'll let a lot of my gun videos through, but they'll demonetize Mariah in a heartbeat.
It's because she's not what they want to portray as a good female role model. You know what I'm saying?
She's pretty, she's smart, and she's not a feminist, and they hate that.
And that just don't work.
By the way, I didn't say she's pretty smart. I said she's pretty
smart. I was you ever seen anything uglier than no, wait, I did that wrong. Have you ever seen anything as ugly as a feminist?
I can't think of anything unless it's a transgender.
Zoo one time, hippo.
What's that?
Zoo one time, it was a hippo.
Oh.
There's more to that story, but I was restricted in my movements for several hours. And there was an individual in there that was a never ending stream of the most culturally unacceptable jokes I've ever heard in my life. Thought I was going to die. I mean, that was the best drunk tank ever. This guy could, I mean, he would just joke after joke after joke. The turnkey was standing in the doorway listening. So, anyway. Yeah.
Oh.
LS for the win. What LS do?
Thing I see are those dudes who act like they're feminists because they think it's going to get them laid.
Yeah.
That's probably the lowest of the low right there.
And you know the sad thing about it is the girls that actually go there, you're like, oh wow, you got low standards.
Yeah, they're usually angry little men too who can't really compete, so they're feminists now, so they can have sex with women and not have to have any consequences or responsibilities afterwards. And then they get mad that women don't want to have sex with them. I'm a feminist. Why won't you go out with me? No one likes feminists. Even feminists don't like feminists.
It's and that whole thing with you look on this side of the street, there's the feminist protesters and stuff, and there are like 10 of them or something. And then there's 200 guys on the other side of the street, and you're just like, man, I thought they were going to show us their boobs. What do we even show up for? But,
yeah, and most of them, you don't want to see their boobs anyway.
Something if they have any. I just remembered it's midnight, and I have to get my wife up, and I'm not making excuses. I have to get her up and have her so across town way early in the morning because she really does. Y'all keep her in your prayers. She is going to go to the den of Satan for a week and for school, for work. So she's going to the Capitol, and y'all keep her in your prayers. And I got to get up in the morning and drive her over there. So I got to get off here. So
all right, sir. Well, thank you for inviting us on and being such
an
interesting gracious host.
If you ever decide to do a live stream and want to invite me or something, I might be able to hang, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 hours with you.
I want to, but my device I have won't stream. I have to call you and you stream. I can't do it directly myself. It's the craziest thing. I think I've just got an operating system that's not able to do it for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, because when it showed up, it wasn't even a video call. It was a voice call on here. So anyway, no, this is cool. Anyway, I really do got to get off of here. God bless all you people. Y'all, thanks for stopping in. Thanks for all the input. Y'all remember, everybody go sub my other channel because I don't want anybody to lose out on all the joyous things we do on here. I really appreciate all you people and all your support and everything. Okay?
We appreciate you, man. Thank you. Ooh.